Well, let's see. Peace, everyone. Greetings. Shabbat Shalom. Good people. I am
Shabbat
host, right?
Shalom.
I don't know if everybody can hear us. Peace and welcome, Chief Yuya. Good evening. Shabbat Shalom. We are here and on time. Um, Safta, you want to open us up?
Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Glad to see everyone was able to join in so we can start our Sabbath together. I just want to give thanks for this space. I give thanks for the Most High for just allowing us to be able to commune together and fellowship as we start our Sabbath. I give thanks for our Chief Jetna, who provides the space for us and keeps everybody on their P's and Q's so that we can live and do the things we're supposed to do. So let's get started. We've got some juice for tonight.
We do. We do. And like I will that, I want to add on that, in our time of sharing this evening together, that our hearts are open to
Yes.
receive and to share and in this space, and that we'll be able to grow from the
Yes.
knowledge that we receive, but more importantly, the knowledge that's shared amongst us this evening. And if you're watching and you learn anything from what we're sharing, please call in, come in, join the space, join the conversation, call in a friend. Um, right now, at this moment, take a pause if you're in the
Mhm.
chat and, pull someone into this conversation this evening. See if you can find someone, anyone, because it's going to be good. It's going to be good. So let's greet everyone. We have a lot of family in the chat. Greetings, Chief Yuya. Thank you for being in space. We thank you for creating this opportunity for us. You're
Yes.
always here. You're always supportive.
Yes.
And yeah, every time you come through, you just, the dynamics just change. The whole conversation becomes, goes to another level. So
That's right.
we give
That's right.
thanks for your presence. And we're grateful for you, Ima Yakira Eden, Alpha Woman Now with Yakira Eden. Abayada Ram, greetings, peace, and welcome. Top tier speakers, welcome. Ima Kuya, Shabbat Shalom to you as well. Who else is in the space? Master Menelek,
Mhm.
greetings. Imanaya.
Akote Yafe.
Oh yes, her
Yeah.
whoop whoop. All right.
No one is left behind.
That's right. That's right. Turn over all those stones. Hmm. Those 12
Yes.
stones. So, so this evening, what are we building on this evening? We're building on.
Faithfully feminine,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is a very, very new aspect of the perception of looking at femininity for me. So I'm excited for us to start this bill. Um, when we first began to research this, for me, I realized when I came into a new, I did not know what femininity was. I was so molded and sculptured into a Western society that what I thought femininity was totally different from what
Right.
I've learned being in this space. And to add faithful onto that, it takes us into a whole new realm. Faithfully feminine is what it looks like to know and live your purpose and your role as a feminine woman. And so we're going to talk about what that femininity looks like
Yeah.
in being faithful in that and from a Bible perspective as well, which is pretty much the same thing. We'll just be using Bible references to point out how that works in a righteous community.
Right. And we want to draw differences, right? We want to
Mhm.
lay down boundaries in that you're aware, for those of you who are going to be tuning in later on, even after the live build, and you're probably wondering, yeah, when we speak of femininity, we're
Mhm.
really talking about what is connected to the feminine energy, right? And ener- energy and mannerisms and skills and behaviors that are directly connected to a woman, right? A natural born woman.
That's right.
So, and during our conversations, Burn, please don't get confused with the idea of feminism, because that is in no way in no way tied to the points that we're going to be bringing up. No, actually, by the time you're done, you're probably going to have an aversion to it, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
as we build and we have this conversation, we want you to also know that this is an open conversation for both men and women, um, because just as we as sisters, we can have a conversation and talk about what are feminine qualities that we identify with and so on. The same is true. Brothers in the space and men in the space can now identify these are the qualities that are um, most important to me when it comes to choosing a woman, or selecting a mate, or selecting women for my family. Like, these are the feminine qualities that are most attractive to me. And Safta, we have a few
Mhm.
questions for you all before we jump right in. But I know you wanted to talk a little bit about um, submitting and wives submitting, and also connecting the supreme mathematics factor. So you want to jump
Right. When we look at our supreme mathematics, it talks about the original man and the original woman. And the woman is referred to under supreme mathematics as the moon that reflects the light of her sun, who is the original man, and to his star and the original child. So there's a structure that the Most High had already set up for us. And I believe right now in our room, we're talking about what it means to be a woman in a structured society, or I should say a community, where everybody has a role that we play. And the Most High is the one that already he set that up, from the beginning. He had a structure of how the family should operate, and everybody has a role, and everybody's role is so important. And the reason the role play is are not being played in this society is the reason why there's such a breakdown in society. Family has taken a back burner. Family's not an important aspect when actually within a new, that's the biggest component of nation building is the
right.
woman and the child. And without a man to orchestrate and to facilitate and structure that, you know, everything's chaotic. And that's what we are as women without a covering. We're chaotic. And we have no direction. We're just out there doing what we do, you know. So Ephesians 5:22-23, it speaks about submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of God. But mainly, wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as the Lord. The husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the savior of the body. So, first of all, if we don't have that structure, I mean, we lost just coming out the gate. You know what I'm saying? And for so many years, even when you have couples who may have a woman who's running things, like what's going on, so 90% of the time in our society, there's no balance there, and it's just like in order for a car to run properly, there's a way that the gas has to move through the engine and how everything has to work. And same thing with the family. If you don't have a man who's heading the family up and who's pouring into the woman, who pours into the children, and to everyone else below, who, and again, there's a structure that we have within a new, that our head, our patriarchy, excuse me,
Yes.
and that we have to be in alignment with, because when you're not in alignment and structured, then things are not going to run properly. So there's a submission that happens when for the woman. And in order to really submit, it's not something you can just do. As I mentioned earlier, when I came into a new, I didn't really know what femininity was. So and it's something you really can't fake well. I tried it, to just pretend like I knew what it was when I didn't. And again, it has to start somewhere. And being poured into and being at a point in my life where I have a covering, and it's so different. It's exhilarating. And there's a sense where you exhale, because as a woman, there's a role we play. And honestly, it's such a big role that you don't have time to be stepping outside your lane, dealing with things that you're not directed or instructed or given purpose to do. So, and that's where the beauty is. So that's what we're going to really talk about this evening, is being faithfully feminine. And as Achoti Moreyah said, it has nothing to do with being a feminist. It has so much to do with what we were created to be. And you'd be surprised, it's a lot easier being faithfully feminine than trying to fit into a mold that you were not made to be in. So just wanted to lead with that.
The you it's so important to think about, not just think about, but understand the value of
Mm-hmm.
foundation. Because you introduce the supreme mathematics, and so one is knowledge, and knowledge
Mm-hmm.
is the foundation of everything. And
That's
so
right.
if knowledge is the original man,
That's right.
then and wisdom comes after. Our femininity is actually sits on that foundation,
That's
which
right.
is man, which is knowledge, right? And you know, when we marry the word faithfully, and that happened on a call. We were on a call. I can't remember what we were doing, right, you and I? And yes, we were thinking of something else, but faithfully feminine came forward.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about faith, faith is not a belief. That's knowing. And
That's
I
right.
found it interesting. It was profound. I think it was a couple minutes before we even got on. I said to myself, well, wait, a lot of what our first dialogue was about when we talked about fearlessly moving forward was about knowledge,
That's right.
right? Knowing self, right? And so if we're talking faith, we're talking knowledge,
That's right.
not belief. And that knowledge again goes back to the man. So in order to really walk fully in femininity, there has to
Mm-hmm.
be that balance, right? There has, Myra, very
Yeah.
useful, very useful. There has to be that balance. There has to be
That's right.
that presence of masculinity and masculine energy leading and guiding in order
That's
for
right.
the feminine to be a complement, because that's what it is, right? That femininity is a complement to masculinity.
That's right.
Um, and I think about the Ephesians 5:22, where you said, "Submit yourselves to one to another, wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands." And
That's right.
right.
That's right.
So just identifying that you have a covering and being able to recognize that, and be able to recognize it through submission. So because it's a doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
That's right.
and that submission is directly connected to receptivity,
That's
right?
right.
And that's like a feminine quality. That's a
Mm-hmm.
feminine quality. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves, because one of the things we wanted to actually share before we even open up the bill is already busted wide open. It's already wide open. But we wanted to share some of the seven attributes of what Shahrazad Ali identifies as the seven attributes of a good black woman. All
That's
right.
right. That's right.
And since they're all in the chat, that's my piece. Because normally she says you wouldn't know what to look, you wouldn't know what they'll look like. But since I will say, since all the women, you new women are all up in the chat, you're gonna have an idea what that looks like, right? But she mentions self-discipline. She
Mhm.
mentions courteousness. She mentions cheerfulness, self-respect,
Mhm.
intelligence, cleanliness, and love. Right? Those are the seven attributes that she shared. And I always think of them as a great way to highlight what is feminine, right? When it
Mhm.
comes to things like self-discipline.
That's right.
Self-discipline doesn't come without that complementary of the masculine, because femininity itself is chaos, right?
That's
Which,
right.
which brings us to that creative, but it has to have that balance in order to be able to be disciplined and create. It has to
That's right.
have that order present. So that's what I thought was beautiful also about sharing the seven attributes, because you realize that these things take place with a backdrop, and that backdrop is the complement of the order and the directedness of knowledge, which is in man.
That's
So
right.
that's I think that's really important to bring up. Um, is there anything you wanted to jump in and add? I know we wanted to talk about. We could talk about each one of them, but I know we wanted to mention some of the attributes
Well,
as
with the attributes, one of the things I found so helpful is when you have a master mate covering in your life, a righteous man who is able to actually notice and see the things that you are and you aren't. It it's one of the most beautiful things for me, especially right now. My covering happens to be my son, who is a new man, and he's very comfortable pointing out things to me that are not feminine. And when you operate for so many years not being feminine, not even paying attention to the beauty in femininity, um, it's really good to have someone that and trust to be able to say, you know what, that's not feminine. Or, and that's for those of us who was not raised with this being built into us. Our culture, and in this culture, there it's so far away from what it should be. But I was thinking about how beautiful it is to be in a community with sisters, because we also are able to see when we're stepping outside of our role and help each other to stay on a path that we want to be on, so that if you haven't been raised to be feminine as a woman, you grow into it. And I don't care what they say, you can teach an old dog new tricks, because the things that I'm learning and enjoying learning is such a it's something I just am so thankful I didn't have to end this part of my journey without being able to experience it. So, as we were talking about the attributes, I was thinking about self-discipline, because I think for a lot of women that's a bigger problem than what sometimes we want to admit, is the fact that because we are chaotic creatures, and because there's a dark side to us that we need light shedded on, self-discipline is one of those things that it's so important, because you can't get anywhere without self-discipline. And I can definitely testify to that, because again, you're all over the place, you're doing whatever you want to do, you have no direction, you have no guidance. And that's where
well.
being in a righteous community, you really get to relax and have someone. It's not like you're not going to do the work.
Right.
There's work to be done. And because even within our new way, there's required qualities that we have to not only learn what those are, but to apply them in our life. And I found that those required qualities are something that it's across the board. It services the whole community and your family, not to mention how it really softens you as a woman because let's be real, without the protection of a community and a mate or a covering ahead, you're subjected to a lot of things that harden you as a woman. And there's a softness that gets lost that is so much of who we are supposed to be, and the balance that comes with having the required qualities as well as the seven attributes. Um, yeah, I wonder how I got so far in my life without really being able to walk in those things.
But we would, because the society we once lived to please, I'm going to say it that way, the society we once lived to please actually imbues those, I would say, wicked qualities, because they're not natural, right? They actually force us to live against
Mm-hmm.
what is
Mm-hmm.
natural, right? And
That's right.
what is natural as women, which is put the career first, which is go out there and expose yourself, overexpose yourself,
Mm-hmm.
um, hike in the woods,
Yeah.
mo-
Yeah.
moonlight, and all you can think about is hiking in the woods. Because why? Why would that be a thing?
Right.
But you think you're so, full of, you're so aggressive, and you can defend yourself, and you're not even thinking.
Mm-hmm.
That's me. I wasn't even
Mm-hmm.
thinking. So full of ego that you think you could walk around in the woods at night and just uncovered like that.
That's right.
Um, but again, we get that far because we're in a society that I guess if they gaslight us in a sense, and make you think that that's okay, that's acceptable, but it's not. It's not. And what's interesting is that that type of behavior is actually frowned upon by a man who's walking in masculinity, right? A man who go ahead.
No, as I was listening to you, I was thinking about how, I remember a time um, when women, like, I remember when women didn't wear pants. Now, I
Yeah.
didn't live back in that time because I was more in the Western days, but they used to call them breeches back then. But women didn't wear pants. Women, nylon stockings. Even when I went into the military in the mid 70s as a Marine, we had to, the only time we wore pants was when we were doing PT. The rest of the time, after 5 o'clock in the morning, we had to get up and we had to put on skirts. Our uniform it was a daily routine, but it was a skirt and a blouse, and we
Right.
had to wear makeup. And I remember being a Black woman in the Marine Corps, and they told me I had to shave my legs. And I was like, we don't shave our legs. Like, you can't really see the hair on my legs. But it was all the feminine things as what they thought would require you to be feminine at that
Yeah.
time. And once I had to wear nylons, I understood why. You don't want hair sticking through your nylons, back in those days. But it was even though we had to learn how to shoot and go through the gas chamber and do things like that, one of our classes was a class on etiquettes. It was setting a formal dinner table, you
Right.
know. So there used to be a thing that so separated the different genders for a
Right.
woman and then for a man. But over the years, it's deteriorated so. And we
Sorry.
didn't even
Sorry.
no
Sorry.
problem.
Sorry.
we
I didn't.
didn't um we didn't have co-ed barracks back then. The women were on one side of the base, the men were on the other side of the base. Women didn't go on the front line, they didn't fight. We were nurturers, we were mothers, and So there was still a quality that was protected that no longer is anymore. A woman's supposed to be just as hard as a man. And there was a thing where I remember growing up knowing that men sowed their oats. They were allowed to go out there and become a man, how whatever that meant to them, if it was being with women or, you know, but women were supposed to be virgins when they got married. And, when you look and compare with the breakdown of the family and you look at where we are now as a nation, and of course, Anu is not within the same as the Western culture, but I can understand the protection now and why it's so important that the femininity or the woman is embracing, because as remember the what was it where girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice, and boys were made of rocks and snails and puppy dog tails, and they were supposed to be rough, we were supposed to be soft, and that is still true to a certain degree, but our softness comes in at a very different way. We were talking about the attributes. In a new, I know one of the things I learned coming in was when we don't yell across a room, for example. If someone is not within speaking distance, then we get up and we go to where they're at if we want to talk to them. We don't yell, we don't cuss, we don't fuss. You know, um, these are all built into the required qualities. And when you stop and you really think about what you accomplish, I have one son, and when I think about how I could have been softer and I could have been more nurturing, but at the same time, women, we only have the first few years of our son's life to do that before we're supposed to hand them over to the man or the males in our life for them to take it from there, because we're not really capable of raising men. We can raise babies or nurture babies, but we don't raise men. So there's so much. Again, I love this topic because even and I always say my age because I'm up there, but I'm just getting started because it's just getting good. You know what I mean? To learn the things that I didn't, as far as just how important it is to be feminine and to be faithful in that. So I wanted us to talk more about that faithful part of being feminine because it is a biblical requirement. It's a new required quality. It's everything spiritual that I'm learning. It shows me that a woman has a place that is so important, and when we get outside of that, we lose some of our power.
Hmm. We lose our power. We lose value. Our
Hmm.
value, because our value as women is in that feminine piece. It's in that receptivity.
Hmm.
And again, I just wanted to pause and say, Chief shared the seven attributes.
Hmm.
Them: self-discipline, courteousness, cheerfulness, self-respect, intelligence, cleanliness, and love. Um,
That's right. And love.
and love, and love, right? And love being a connection, right?
Mhm.
So in everything we do as Anu, there's always going to be an Anu spin on it. There's always a cultural context that's directly connected to Anu, all based on what Chief Jegna, Chief Yuya has shared with us, and he keeps giving to us.
Mhm.
And you spoke about um, some qualities such as being soft, um, and soft spoken, which is different from being stern. Like you could be soft but stern at the same
Mhm.
time, right?
Mhm.
But just softness and not yelling across the room and things like that. And I say I come from a culture where it's okay to say, you know, what? Yeah, like generation, what going on? Like, it's wrong. It shouldn't be. But I grew up, is what I should say, with that as like culturally acceptable. So my culture now does not dictate that that's inappropriate. And you know, whoa, I can't remember where I was. This was some years ago, and I remember calling out to someone, and then I had to be like, "Oh my goodness, did you just do that?" Because I stepped right back into that space. When you get to a place where you see someone you haven't seen them in a long time, and you get a joy,
Mhm.
right? But there's that pulling back, and also remembering too an old saying that I kept and I have to research it to see where it came from actually, because now I'm very wary about sayings. But it was like, little girls should be seen and not heard.
Not her.
That was
Mhm.
always a thing, and so it was a bit contradictory in a sense, because again, like, I was from a place where both was upheld. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, holla when
Mhm.
you see someone, but you're a girl,
Yeah.
you should hear you talking, not
Yeah,
but
you can't tell a young woman not to yell these days. I mean that I don't know. It's now that I see the qualities that should be natural for most of us. I can see how unattractive some of that loudness and aggressiveness and I see how out of line it was. When we talk about being faithful, it's remaining steadfast and true to the facts or original. And we don't even know what original is until we take it back. We take it back to the beginning, to the creator, and again, that's where the flow comes in because women are supposed to be like water. That's something I heard all the time, a lot being in a new, is we're supposed to be able to flow. But also, when I think about flowing, I always think about a river and the banks and how rivers are directed, and they flow so freely, but yet they're directed in how they flow and where they flow. And it makes me think about being faithfully feminine, how important that is to become a part of your character. It shouldn't be something well, I'm not going to say it shouldn't be because for me, I stumbled through that. And I'll be really honest, the more I learn about being feminine, the more I'm embracing being faithfully feminine because the two go together. It's something I had a dream the other night, and it's something I haven't even shared within my new family. And as we've been struggling, well, I'm not going to say we've been struggling, as we've been studying about being faithfully feminine. And I thought about, wow, where was I and how did I move? And I had to think back about how I used to behave. And when I had the dream the other night, I thought, oh, that's something I never shared with my new family because we talk about me having a lot of different jobs, which I've had a lot of jobs, over the years. But I remembered, and the dream took me back to when I was 23 years old. And I went for an interview. And I'd always had kind of masculine jobs, driving forklifts and being a federal police and things like that. And it was actually the first job where I felt like a lady, like a woman. And I'll go ahead and confess it, but I interviewed as a Playboy bunny in Phoenix, Arizona. And I got the job. And when I learned about what we did, actually, it was a very conservative. It's not like the book. The club itself is just has women that wear the bunny outfit, but you're not allowed to date. The men are not allowed to touch you. They are not allowed to do anything lewd it's not. It was just I was I was there to make the money. I was in school at the time.
You just skip over that. You were just like smooth like water right over that. Kept it moving, and I'm over here looking in the sky trying to
Yeah.
figure out what do you mean?
Well, I
Uh,
worked at the gift counter where they bought, the
scooters
cards.
on
And,
rocket fuel. That's what that is. Please, just scoot on over.
you know,
Steve said, "Of course you got the job. We have eyes, righteous everybody."
but
Oh
you,
my goodness.
but it was funny because I couldn't just, I had to walk a certain way. I had to
Right,
carry myself a certain way. Um, it was not a cheap club to belong to. We were on the eighth floor of a 25-story building, and you could only hit that bunny button if you had a key to swipe to get off on that floor. And
right,
I just remember that it was the first time I even began to know what being feminine was like. You know, just having to be there, smile, and look pretty or look cute, however,
right.
But I just remember doing that for about 6 months. From when I was on a break from school, and I had just gotten out of the military, and so I was pretty fit at the
Right.
time. Didn't have any kids, and that was just one of those things that I did quietly forget about that particular job. you know, as I grew up, and my mother, I remember her telling me, "You were not raised like that." I thought about that Betty Wright song. They had, "I like the music, but I know you're not gonna sing that."
Wow.
So yeah, it was going from the military to doing something like that. And I was looking at Master Mill, like he said, did they
Yeah.
give you all feminine training similar to the military? No, but they did. It's very strict, and it was very conservative, and it was an experience. And now that I look back on it, it was something that I was taught to be ashamed of,
Right.
even though there was nothing, um, you know, I mean, I can think of a lot of things I was ashamed of, but that one was really, now that I look back on it, because we embrace things like, Kama Sutra, and as women, and arts, and being creative. And, now that I think back and I look back about that, I think, wow, that was the first time I ever really embraced being feminine. So, we had to have our nails done, and, you know, we just had to be very ladylike. So,
Right.
um, yeah, that was an experience for me.
Chief said, well, there are a few responses in the chat, so I'll go through them. Imanaya says, I remember wearing pantyhose, sheer, ultra sheer, shimmer, shimmer. All right,
Yeah.
All right. This is true. Talk to a speaker says, I can see how a lack of discipline affects our ability to be proper helpmeets and complete the directives given by our
That's
heads.
right. That's right.
Exactly. Exactly. That's self-discipline is important. It is not present
Hmm.
though because we're chaos, right?
That's right.
We
That's right.
are that darkness, and I will say that there's power in that, right?
That's right.
There's power
Mhm.
in that. That Chief teaches us that there's power
Mhm.
in that space to create. There's power, but we'll just sit in a space and just keep creating without any direction,
Mhm.
right? So actually, what happens is counterproductive,
That's right.
right? But
That's right.
one of the things that we have to be is productive. We have to actually produce. We have to be given, and when we're given, expand on what we're given,
That's
right?
right.
That
Hmm.
that that's a key component of being feminine.
That's right.
And I'm gonna say, like, even in my being reared and the choice, because I'm gonna say it's a choice. There are choices
Hmm.
that I've made that were counterproductive, right?
That's right.
And
That's right.
literally and non-productive because I get instruction but didn't follow through. And one of the key messages that I took away from our last midday affirmative, which was a beautiful, uh, very long and quite informative bill that was led by Ima Yakira Eden. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and she gave so much in that had me
Yes.
digging up some history too that I'm gonna bring up now because it's directly connected to the whole bunny thing and the feminine wiles because it's the presentation of
Mm-hmm.
what is a boy, right? It's a boy. What's a boy? So yes, it is. It is. It is. And I saw the connection. But something that was really important, and I don't want to skip over it, was is that idea of being given and poured into and actually producing, doing something with it, expanding on what is given to you. That's a natural part of what it means to be feminine. And
Mm-hmm.
one
Mm-hmm.
of the points that she brought up was the way you do that is showing gratitude, and your gratitude is not necessarily in words but in what you do with what you're given,
That's right.
how you're living what you're given, you know. And so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, pardon for every moment that I have taken or received and not, like not worn that thread within my DNA, so it isn't like coming forward as a part of me. All right, because I had to reflect on it. I was like, yeah, that's the ultimate show of gratitude. When you
Mm-hmm.
can take in, receive, and then you're able to share it with others, and it becomes a part of your life,
That's
and
right.
you're living it. Because that's real appreciation,
Mm-hmm.
right?
It
Because
is.
it is real appreciation, and then it
Mm-hmm.
goes right in hand with what it means to, like, gratitude, giving praise and thanks for certain things, because then it multiplies that thing. Well, the way it multiplies it is because you take it in and you take it in and you be it. So it's
That's
like,
right.
how else it would multiply, especially if it's taken in by a womb, because then now
That's
you're
right.
talking about, being able to reproduce, well, carry, right? Now you're
That's right.
carrying that
That's
seed
right.
in. So it's like, yeah, there's so much more to it than just the words of yes, thank you, or give
That's
thanks,
right.
which is, like what we tend to do sometimes, but it's empty. It's in that
Mm-hmm.
doing, you know. Chief
That's
also says a loud female, and this is connected to a previous something we were talking about when it comes to, look, yelling across the room. And he says a loud
mm-hmm.
female only lets a guy know that she is an easy sexual conquest, nothing more. Some females don't talk much but are still very loud with their gender and wickedness. Right.
Yes. Oh
Right.
yes.
Right. This is true. This is true. And so, and even then they can be seen, because even if you don't talk much, still from the abundance of
The
the
heart
the
overflow.
heart, right? From the
Mm-hmm.
abundance of the heart. So whatever is sitting in the heart, you open your mouth even for a couple minutes, that's what's gonna come pouring out, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And I think that's connected to the value of, when we talk about mating in Anu, is definitely connected to the value of a man knowing um, the mind of a woman, right? You
Yes.
know the mind of the woman. It don't matter how quiet you are.
That's right.
You're gonna be seen, and your agenda will be, spotted. That man will be able to decipher. So I think that's a really important thing
It
to
is.
identify,
Yes.
that loud female, that almost like a Jezebel spirit.
And I hadn't thought about it as far as the way he structured that when he says, even if you're quiet, and that comes from, the way you carry yourself, even in the clothes you wear, you know, it speaks volumes about the type of woman that you are. I think not just myself, but as sisters, we've all talked about how we're perceived differently in the public because of the way we cover our hair and the way we dress. You
Yeah.
know, I used to get mad and wonder what it was about me that would cause certain kind of men to feel they could just approach me. Because some of them I'd be like, no, he didn't just walk up and ask to, you know. And it was because I was thinking like, he just came out the liquor store. He don't have no teeth in his mouth, and he feels like he could walk up and, and ask me to lunch. What do I look like? What am I representing? You know?
Right.
And so it does. It speaks. Whereas sometimes I would see when I was younger, I'd see certain kind of men, and I might cut my eye and think, "Wow, I bet he's nice. I wonder what." But those type of men never approach me, and I used to always wonder. And I did understand and learn later that it was a certain masculine energy that I radiated. That
Right.
a man who, you know, like our new men, they know the type of woman that they. I remember when I was growing up, it was like certain women you just don't take home to mom. You don't take to meet your family. They're just good for going out, having fun, but they're not family material. So
As you said, sexual conquest.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He's as he
Mhm.
said, yeah, isn't easy,
Yeah.
and so yeah, it's very important how we what we reflect, and sometimes we can do that without opening our mouth. So that is something to really to always be aware
Yeah.
of.
So Chief says Betty Wright, which I think you know because I don't know.
When I was talking about the song, when I was talking about how my mother
Nice.
felt about my job, it was a
Uh,
song by a Betty Wright, and she um she sang about tonight is the night when you make me your woman, and it was
mm,
almost like a going from a virgin to a an experience. But when she let her mother hear the song, her mother was like, "I like the music, but I know you ain't gonna sing that song."
oh boy.
Yeah, so it was, yeah. Um, but it's this journey of being a woman. Um, to me, as I'm experiencing at this point in my life, it's a beautiful thing because I've already done so much wrong,
Mm,
and the redemption comes from being able to not only change that behavior, but to set a standard and an example for my granddaughters and the ones coming after me, even my daughters that are grown. You know, um, I've often shared, the things that I've done wrong and the results I got from that. And it's
right.
never too late to change. And you may not get what you want, what you missed out on, but at least you set up, uh, you 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 break the curse and you set up
Right.
something for your youth. Um, they have an opportunity to experience things that maybe you didn't
Right.
because you didn't know, or even if I knew, I don't know if I would have did the right thing back then. Because that can be an excuse. Well, I didn't know better. Why? Well, even if you knew, would you still have made the choices that you made? And it's not until you get on the other side and you have to reap the consequences of what you should have, could have done better.
Right.
But it's a beautiful thing though to know that my granddaughters won't be able to say, "Well, I didn't know." Oh yeah, you did. You know, because I made sure you knew. So yeah, that femininity, it's a big part of our identity, which is something I'm working on right now, is my own identity. And that is one of the things that I find that I really do enjoy exploring, is what that looks like. Because I already know what not being feminine looks like.
Mm,
And, before we get into that, I wanted, because I know we have some questions,
we
but
do.
Yeah, I was wondering, you know, what is it that, um, because this is a question for the women, but when I think about all the young women that even if you don't have children, there is some female watching you,
Mhm.
whether in your situation as a school teacher, you got young women who watch the way you carry yourself, or you got nieces or nephews, or, those of us with grandchildren, which, I know that it's a reason, you know, other than the beauty of knowing it's part of who we are, you know, embracing femininity is like you said, it adds so much value. So I was
Right.
wondering what you thought about, you know, um, how we express our femininity,
Hmm.
because
As Go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
So, what ways do we express our femininity? In what ways? That's a question for me. You want me
Hmm.
to answer?
Well, not just
well,
you.
well, of
Um,
course. Okay, you want all the sisters in the space to answer to, like, how do you express femininity? I think a major part of expressing femininity, and of course, is gonna be a block if you can't do that. And I know that's something that I am working on reversing, is that listening piece, because listening is receptivity, is directly connected to one
yes.
of the properties of water. And we're always talking about how, like, women represent water, and you know I think something I learned about water, that I learned from studying Shrine and Altar, which is written by Chief Yuya, was just studying the elements. And one of the elements that I really enjoyed reading about and digging up more about was water. And the fact that water's ability to absorb energy, its capacity is huge. So it's like, wow,
Mm,
very
mm-hmm.
no wonder, like, we're connected to that idea, because we are to be poured into. And so
That's right.
but
That's right.
that's how I, question to the woman, yes, that's how I able to showcase femininity, by
Mm-hmm.
being receptive, by being an astute listener, an acute listener, rather, not astute, acute listener, astute too, but acute listener. um
Mm-hmm.
because then I'm actually paying attention, right? Then, and I think that's directly connected to one of our attributes, one of our not attributes, but one of our required qualities, which is to be tuned into the needs of the community. If
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a good listener, then
That's
I'm
right.
not as open and as receptive, and that's something that's underlying too in my answer is long, but that's something that's underlined too in solutions for dysfunctional family relationships, also written by
That's right.
uh,
That's right.
our chief Jetna, who
Mm-hmm.
pours so much in there.
That's right.
But being open is also another way that I show femininity.
That's right.
So there's so much. Master Menelek put the question in chat. How do you express femininity? How do you express femininity? So yeah, that's my response. That's how I express femininity.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, and
you,
I'd like to hear from some of the other sisters in the chat as far as their expression. Um,
Yakira Eden says femininity is shown through reflecting what is instructed.
that is right.
Hmm.
With joy. I'm learning and to do it happily, because as I first began to understand I needed to adhere to instruction from my covering, there was in the back of my mind, and I think I discussed it with the women in the room, in the back of my mind, there was a little pouting going on,
A little
okay, a pouting,
about.
like I was pouting. Yeah, I was like, okay, I'm going to do it because I'm supposed to do it, but I don't think, and there was some And I realized how much that worked against me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I let that go after sharing it in the womb, and it wasn't something I wanted to share, but I knew I needed to, because
Right.
all the feedback I got helped me get past it and begin to understand, you know what, don't even think about it. Just do it.
Right.
Just do it. Don't second guess it. But just do it. Um, but I think there was a lot going on in the chat. That
I,
was
I wanted to go back because I didn't want to miss some of the valuable items that were shared as well.
right.
So before I read the other sisters and their responses, I'm going to go back. Master Menelik said, interesting how many of the spaces you moved in, Safta, within made you acutely aware of the masculine feminine dynamic,
Hmm.
right? And that's the uh, job position.
Yeah.
The leaders on rocket fuel,
Yeah.
and and being in the military. You know,
Yeah.
he said so. This is interesting because sometimes we, when I was younger, you would think, I didn't like it, but I was around young women who enjoyed catcalls. They
Hmm.
enjoyed being
Hmm.
approached by just random people,
Hmm.
random men is what I'm saying. And it's
Hmm.
always interesting to see the characters. That's what the characters that approach, and to Chief's point, he said raggedy men approach because you are the effect of raggedy thoughts. And
Mm.
remember, we're the scene, right? So woman shows man energy flowing out the soul. She's the reflection of our effects.
That's
Man
right.
is unseen thought, and she is seen action.
Wow. So I had some raggedy thoughts that was radiating out that I wasn't even aware of. Wow.
Hmm. And
Yes. Yes. That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense.
he says sometimes that unseen raggedy huh, X is still the primary cause of thought, so it sends out a mating call to similar kind.
Hmm. Birds of a feather flock together. Yep,
This
that
is
makes a lot of
this
sense.
And so this goes to a point that I actually I wanted to bring up, and we're probably gonna get to it later on again. But it's that idea of what the woman like represents. This idea of
Hmm.
the woman representing, like holding past experiences, and
Hmm.
part of our
Yeah,
job being to scrub ourselves of those past experiences, because we hold, right?
that's right.
Naturally, we're like a vessel. We talk about it all the time, a well uncovered, right?
Hmm.
What is a well? A receptacle.
That's
What
right.
is a vessel? A receptacle. So you can hold on to those things, but it's important to scrub ourselves of those experiences, so that way the X does not, you know, whatever was attached, whatever thoughts that were
Yeah, yeah,
imputed are removed, so that that's no longer what is driving how you're seen,
that's
right?
right. That's
Um,
right.
then yeah, ready, my Akira's already. Anu Radio says vulnerability is how she expresses femininity. Imanaya says the way I dress. Oops. There's another language in here. Oh, hold on. All right, we coming. There's like a whole lot happening in the chat. All right. Imanaya says the way I dress, listening better, being free in my emotions.
Hmm.
Indeed. Imayakira then also says, and femininity is also reflected by being that lateral protection. That
That's right.
says literal protection, and I always say lateral protection because, and we talked a little bit about this. Sorry to point at you, but we talked a little bit about this in our
Hmm.
preparation
Hmm.
because, and for those of you listening, we were talking about the the ceremony that
Mm-hmm.
that was recently posted on
Mm-hmm.
and Annual Life Global Ministry, this very channel. Um, it was a sacred union, a videotaping of a sacred union
Mm-hmm.
between two members, Master Menelek and Achoti Lemina. And what we saw was that woman encircling the man.
That's right.
And that conversation, that conversation led to me connecting to something, some film that I saw before, but understanding what that lateral protection does and how
That's right.
it displaying what it does for the man. So directly connected to what we see, even
That's
in
right.
playing out in the union, that sacred experience. I think that's really important.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that lateral protection we talked about, you know, I really that was profound to me because when I mentioned earlier how women, there's a certain power and a responsibility that we have in being feminine. And it's not the same protection that we receive from our covering, from our heads. It's a different type of protection, but at the same time, it's vital
Right.
that we provide that and know what that is because it allows the man to even um, it just keeps him it's like you know having something not just annoying and dangerous coming at him, but as you're that protection. Because one of the things I'm learning, and I have learned in anew, is that women, we present problem. I mean, we come and we discuss. When we see a problem, we bring it to the man. He solves it. All we have to do is bring it to him. And the type of problems that we bring make all the difference in the world. I mean, that's why, again, it gets back to certain aspects of being feminine. We're not possessive, non-possessive, and I have to use the word we're not, you can't be petty either,
Right.
because especially in the type of patriarchy being that Anu is involved in, and with plurality, we learn, and it's so important that when you really, really care about your family, your household, and your mate, then you want to protect him from all the things. And I believe Chief said in the ceremony that lateral, it's his midsection, and I believe he mentioned about, that part of the body where woman was taken, the rib, that
Yes.
one piece that's no longer there, where we're that piece as we encircle him. And I don't know. When I think about a rib, I think about a club.
But
A club. You know how you walk around with a club, like
oh,
a club,
I know what you
like a
mean.
bat. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
But it's a protection I'm still learning about.
Right.
And again, I'm in the right place to learn it. So
Hmm. Yeah, that's thank you. Immaculate Eden says, also reflected in the modesty of attire and quiet presence. Yafe says, by embodying each of the required qualities. I missed those two above.
hmm
Um, Top tier speaker says, by applying what I've been told to do, dancing, playing my violin, writing poetry, and other creative expressions. Yes, indeed. Those are great ways because it allows for, we talk about the fact that the feminine, the woman is soul. So it gives us an opportunity. By being creative, it gives us an opportunity to, how should I, unleash power, in a sense,
hmm
right? Because that's where a lot of the creativity and so on comes from. It's that chaos,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's that chaos.
Mm-hmm. When we were talking about the protection, the thing that was actually on my mind was one of I believe it was one of our Sabbath meetings that Chief did on a woman of good understanding. And when I think about the protection, the way she protected her whole household, and she did it in such a feminine way. Um, and I believe it was Abigail, the way her husband made some wrong moves and could have gotten the whole household killed. And she was able to go to David and present him
Yeah,
with things so that the house wasn't attacked and everybody wasn't killed. That was one of the first things that came to my mind when and as we're looking in the chat and you were talking about being creative,
right.
it didn't seem like it took her very long to figure out what to do.
To do, right.
You
And how
know,
to be that lateral protection, because that's
that's
literally
right.
what she was doing without saying, like, I need to be equal. I need to be on the front line.
Mhm.
Let me throw on some armor. You know
And
that
she
that
didn't, yeah, and she didn't even rub it in his face. Like, do you know what I did for us today? You, you know
but
what I
that's
mean?
that's the beauty. There are times when I say thank you to Chief for
Mhm.
things, and I realize that we have to give gratitude, and even
Yes,
in that I realize there are things that we're not, and thanks is given to me too by others, but I realize it's like these are naturally occurring things, the things that we do or ought to do. It it comes out of us functioning within our role.
that's
And
right.
when we can be open, and we're acute listeners, and we're dressing modestly in the way we ought to, which is a natural reflection of what's happening in here and what's happening in here. Because I want to put on things based on how I feel, but that doesn't always go well. It's not based on how you feel. It's based on what
That's
is
right.
right. So if we're functioning based on law and what is right, then I know I want
That's
to
right.
pursue rightness or
That's
righteousness all the time. And so therefore I'll present myself in a
right. Mhm.
righteous way. That's me living it. That's me living it. Is
That's right.
peace and welcome, Ben said deck. He says Nekava comes from the root word kab, meaning to measure or discernment. Nekava thus means to receive, measure, quantify, and qualify what is received from the zakar, the sower of the seed. I guess the sower of the seed would be the man. Can you, well, let me see if there's some other responses. And then I'll come back to that. Anu Radio says vulnerability with emotions, expanding the knowledge I've been gracefully given, sharing what I'm confused about without ego or pride.
Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you for expounding on that idea, because I know you did drop vulnerability in there, and I was like, what else? Say some more.
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
thank you for saying more. Anu Radio also says being in tune with what would assist my head with achieving his goals and acting on it.
That's
Yeah,
right.
and the acting on
Mhm.
it is really important. And I'll
That's
pause
right.
and just say, um, yeah, that acting upon it is really important, because we have to we have to be open, right? We have to open our hearts to someone who dwarfs us in logical intellect. So being
That's right.
open to pursuing what a man's goals are, our headship and our leadership, what their goals are,
Mhm.
that's part of being feminine, and not assuming that we must impose what we want to do on the situation,
That's
right?
right.
But being open, right, to follow, being open to follow. I
Mhm.
think that's really important.
Mhm.
Um, and I wanted to say something else about boom, 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 boom. The piece that she mentioned on. Wow, I feel like I'm losing it. On acting on it, but I'll come back to that. Chief says, "Greetings, Ben. I'm not sure why you inserted that, but the root of Nekev or Nekava is NKV, Nun Kafet. Other aspects of what you outline are not totally correct. Welcome to this space." Thank you, Chief, for that. Thank you very much. Um, Anna Radio also says being present. And I don't know if you want to jump in, Safta, and read some of these because I don't want to hog the screen.
um, well, let's see. Chief says zakah is not the okal or the sore, husband, penis. Zakar is the concept of marking or creating. Not sure how to pronounce that. Is it glyph to remember something? The word for wisdom is komath. Its complement is
Bye.
Beha, wisdom. Bina, is that Bina?
Bina.
Bina?
Bina.
Bina. Wisdom is feminine. Ah, you know, that's that I was as we were also studying and we were talking about, I did some research. I was trying to figure out why in I guess it's in Proverbs where it talks about it refers to wisdom as she cries out from the streets. And when I saw that wisdom is feminine, it just made me think about the way that it's written, in the Bible. Matter of fact, I had that written down. And then I thought, well, I need to understand the relationship between femininity and wisdom. And you actually connected it earlier when you were talking about knowledge and understanding, and it's such a big part for us to know. That's part of us being feminine, is to know our mate, our master, our cover, and to participate in his vision, to assist in his vision. And in order to be able to do that, we have to get to know him and know his vision, you know. And there's a lot of wisdom that has to take place, because knowing how to move is very is I've paid more attention to it now than I have any other time in my life, um, because it's I remember I used to always hear that saying, timing is everything. Well, it is. And knowing how to move and position yourself as a woman is one of the most feminine things that we can do, because again, I go back to the story of from the podcast of yeah, a woman of good understanding. That
Right.
was so much of what that story was based on. She understood things that didn't have to be broke down to her. Nobody had to tell her how to do it, when to do it. She just was, and you have to be observant and receptive in order to move in that kind of wisdom, you know? So it just made me think of, the word wisdom and how important it is as a woman to learn to be wise at a young age, even as you rear your children, you know. Um, there's a lot of wisdom that has to take place in order for them to receive what they need.
Right. And again, and it's funny you mention scripture because in Proverbs, there's that constant reference to throughout the Tanakh, I think. There's a constant reference of wisdom as feminine. It's always her, she, her, always. You know, I always think that's an important part of like what we see happening.
Hmm.
Not happening, sorry, but what we sorry. trying. I'm a little bit distracted because I'm trying to make sure my iPad stays plugged in. Uh, but yeah, we always see that reference to wisdom as feminine in
Mm-hmm.
scripture, and the word wisdom. Oh, this is you read this one already. Sorry,
Mm-hmm.
you were saying the word wisdom. Okay. Um, I'll move on. Chief says it's still. Did you read this one? It's still
No, I didn't.
calf bed, but calf vets. With two letter roots, you have to use the grammatical mode for every word, and it is only for semantics. Still, your definitions and roots were incorrect.
Mhm. Oh,
Okay.
he was responding to Ben up top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Was.
Hmm.
Um.
But I believe where you said Proverbs 4, I believe that is in Proverbs 4 where it says wisdom cries out from the streets.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it refers to wisdom as she. And
Yes.
yeah, and Alpha Woman, Yakira Eden, she says, oh yes, Safta, wisdom is always referred to as she.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was really trying to dig deeper on that. Um,
Right.
to again, as I just mentioned, I can see how we can't, we have to get the knowledge we need
Mm-hmm.
and the understanding so that we can move in wisdom because even though we have and we can depend on our light to pour into us and to guide us and direct us, we reflect that in wisdom. That's one of the ways, again, that's a very feminine trait to me.
Wisdom. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, you're saying wisdom. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, wisdom.
I always think about because for years I used to share with my students, knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. And then I heard the wonderful Chief Yuya say, is knowledge applied. Knowledge
That's right.
applied
That's
is
right.
is truth. I was like, but wait, wisdom is feminine and power is feminine. So,
That's right. That's right.
what? So what? But yeah, that wisdom is always going to. That's why the idea of being faithfully feminine is so powerful because we're, it means that what sits at the center of moving feminine and being feminine is that knowledge,
That's right.
of what you are at your core, and what that looks like, how
That's
you
right.
express it, um,
Mm-hmm.
understanding how deep it is when you could say my femininity is expressed down to my tone, down to the threads
That's
that I wear, like,
that's right. That's right.
like I think that's really powerful. And Chief says, hold on, before I say that, Proverbs 120, wisdom cried without, she uttered her voice in the streets. She says, yes, definitely in Proverbs, you see it in chapter 8 too, makes you consider why Solomon surrounded himself with women.
Wow. Yes. Yes. That
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense.
Knowledge applied. She says, not, oh, thank you, Manaya, for placing the link in the chat. For those of you who are looking at all of the references we're making, these references will be in the description. Some of them that are being added now because they're just being introduced. They'll be added to the description for your, reference later on, so that way you can hop to all of the different
Mm-hmm.
lectures and bills, different affirmatives that we're referring to, all with ease, right? Make it convenient for you. She says knowledge applied is wisdom, but wisdom is knowing which knowledge is from the Most High and which is dead information. like a woman who knows the voice of her master.
Yes. Yes. And we've been talking about the qualities and not just the required qualities but the attributes and the things it takes to be faithfully feminine. And I am curious to ask a couple of questions of the men in the chat. I think you wrote down the first one I wanted to ask, if that one's okay.
That one.
Yes.
So, brothers, we'll put you on the spot. I don't know if do we have permission to do that? What is the first? We wanted to know what is the first thing you notice when you meet a female. And for those of you who would scratch female and put woman, please feel free to do so. Woman, because
Yes.
I know what minds we're dealing with here.
There is a difference.
There is a difference. There is definitely there is.
I was talking with my covering, and it's so different to belong with, again, in a righteous community where he's surrounded by men that he's learning from, because these are things I never could have taught my son. And to hear him say, you know, what does not attract him, or even catch his eye,
Right.
it's changed so much because you don't know what you're looking for. I mean, especially nowadays, everything, half the things are false. You looking at one thing, and by the time you get home, it's something completely different. I was listening to, I think it was
Right.
the Tao with Chief Yuya, where he talked about they go out and they have dinner, and at the end of the evening, the whole voice changes.
Right.
you
Right.
know, and he said, "No, I know what that T stood for. It was
Uh-huh.
for Tyrone." So Chief says, first thing I consciously look for is her hands. I instinctively notice her attire first.
Mm. Oh wow. So I'm taking tallies. So we have dress twice already. Okay. Right? It's that wow. Because the way
Yeah,
you present, that's interesting. I know it would be interesting to find out too from sisters, what do they think men notice first? What do you
right.
think brothers notice first?
Well,
Because I think there may be a huge difference, especially with those who are like, and this is an open. I mean, we're talking to our new family as well, but we're talking to the global
that's right.
or a global audience here.
That's
So
right.
if you're in Germany, Austria, and you're listening to this a few days after, a few years after, put your question in the chat. We're gonna get
That's
back
right.
to you, right? But I find it interesting. And for the sisters, you could jump in on it too and share. What do you think will be the first thing that brothers notice?
Yeah, I'm curious to see if it
Mm-hmm.
actually is. Abba Yadaram says how she is dressed, if there is makeup, natural hair, is it covered? Does she look me in the eyes when addressed? If she is with others, how she speaks with them. You
We've
know
had
that,
we had a piece of this conversation even
yeah,
just before we got on, which was about like are they observing how she interacts? And I think your example was, is she rude to the waiter? I mean, we don't date in
mhm,
our, but when you do go out and you're mingling, I think that's a huge part of it, like observing how that person is with others,
mhm,
how they handle experiences, how they communicate with other people.
yeah.
You're gonna say something. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just thinking of when he was talking about if she looks him in the eyes, and I was remembering being insecure and um, if I would meet certain men, it just depends. Some men, I would my confidence. I'd look him in the eye, and if it was a piercing look, I would always look away or look down. You know,
Right.
and I don't, of course, once you come into a righteous, again, you have guidance in a community, then you don't have that same intimidation because, again, like what Chief said earlier, there was some raggedy thoughts going on. So that's why I was attracting the raggedy, attention. But being able to look someone in the eye to me, it's very, it's telling. It's very telling.
Well,
As far as that person's just not even a level of confidence. It goes deeper than that.
so then I'm gonna ask Abba Yada Ram to expound on what he means when he says, "Does she look me in the eyes when addressed?" Only because I know culturally, when I came here, it was almost like people wanted to force you to look them in the eye, and that was something that was not acceptable where I grew up and where I was raised, especially with the whole little girl should be seen and not heard. Yeah, we should also know you have eyes but not see them. I shouldn't even know the color of your pupils, right? That's I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, so and I do know culturally some women cast their eyes down if they're
Mm-hmm.
not in company or if they're walking around and there are other men around. They're not looking at other men in their eyes at all. So I just, um, I just it was just it's a question in terms of like, um, just to understand. And I think I know what it means, but I guess I want to ask for him to expound a little bit to
Mm-hmm.
see the difference. He says, Chief, I look at the feet if possible. Okay, so one looks at the hands, the other one looks at the feet. MGC Randy says, and after Safta, you could read on, right? MGC Randy says, what she's wearing. Okay, that's another tally for the wears, the thread.
Mm-hmm.
Also her attitude toward others and manners. Wow. So we have a tire in the lead, actually.
And let's see. I don't know. My I just kind of lost my place there. Hold
Oh, I
on.
got you. It's on.
Okay, good. So Chief says, of course, peace, is it peace adored? Peace a robe? Peace. The robe will give you a starting point. Is the hair covered? Breasts out? Behind showing?
Oh,
Vagina visible? Yoga pants? Name brand? Enslaved line? High heels?
right.
Loud adornments? Etc. Ah,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Yeah. And high heels,
Yes.
this misaligned womb immediately. Because high heels,
Yes.
yeah, tilt your womb in an awkward way.
And so many don't know that. So many
Right.
young women are tearing themselves up, before they even get into the baby making mode or in that position. They are, wow. And I'll be honest, that's something I'll take that back because I remember being pregnant for the first time, and my grandmother told me I had on some wedges, and they were high wedges, but she told me, "Get out of them heels, girl. You're gonna make the baby dizzy." And I
Oh,
thought, and I thought to myself, Granny, the baby's not gonna get dizzy, but that was just something that women of old they didn't wear a lot of high heels.
right. Right, right, right. Ben says, voice, walk, skin, hair, attire, and hands. as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Alpha Woman Now with Yakira Eden says, I always thought it would be my manner of speaking and smile. Yadaram says, some females forcing the looking into the eyes action, they'd be looking psychotic.
I understand that. Mad dog eyes. uh, I can understand that. I kind of related more to what you said about the looking down, and I used to always think to myself, if a man could look me straight in the eyes, for some reason that was intimidating to me. I
Mm.
just would, if I could look him straight in the eye, I think that was there was some masculinity that rose at that time. And again, this is before coming into a new radio. She says dress and attitude.
Oh, okay. It's interesting
Mm-hmm.
what we think. Interesting what we think.
Chief Yuya says, laugh out loud. I hear you, Abba Yadaram. Their hands tell as many stories as her teeth and eyes do for me. You will know if she is lazy, greedy, masculine, slovenly, manipulative, and etc. Wow.
Mm.
Wow. Yeah. Master Menelik says the first thing I notice is her hair and eyes, mannerisms, the way she dresses others, the way she addresses others, excuse me. Her
Right.
tone of voice is another thing. Sometimes I dislike females before I even get a chance to see them. You know,
Oh.
that's that's exactly what I was wondering. You know,
Mm-hmm.
before you even get to have any kind of conversation, you're already turned off. That's why it's so important that we are aware of our femininity. That is a very good reason to be aware.
Oops. 1 second. Oh wow. Okay. 1 second. 1 second. Oops. Master Manulex said top tier says appearance. I know radio says that's true, Sister Maria. That can differ from culture to culture. I think she's talking about the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
The eyes. Master Menelik says facial demeanor. First thing I look at for it. Look for if you're gonna annoy me or not. Oh, facial demeanor. Oh my goodness! And I remember Master Menelik. This is a part of our conversation too. Like what is not feminine, right? What has nothing to do with femininity. And I remember last strong Master Menelik. Well, Yammer Shangan on our affirmative, he was speaking about his reaction to makeup, women who wear makeup and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Abba Yadaram says there's a natural body language when a man and woman exchange. When she looks in the eyes and folds her hands, she is dismissive. If she looks you in the eyes, then looks away, she has no regard for you.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
That's yeah. That's I didn't know that. See, and that's why it is so important to know what men are looking at, what they're looking for.
Right.
Um, I never knew that. So Master Menelik says, eyes let me know if you're all there or if you're a little touched in the head.
Oh my goodness.
If they rolling around in your head, one is going east and the other one's going west.
Or the fluoride stare too, you know.
Master Menelik says, hair permed or weaved is a red flag in terms of what kind of mindset she has. Even locks and hair coloring makes me look out for a certain mental conditioning. Hmm.
Yeah, and Shahrazad Ali actually breaks down several types of women, and she speaks about women who wear locks, and she breaks down each type of woman. And
Wow.
like when I was reading that one, I was like pointing at everybody else in my family and not actually identifying, what I needed to in myself.
Hmm.
And yeah, when I came to that conclusion, it's like, oh my gosh, she's talking about me. I have locks. What do you mean? But it's definitely insightful
Hmm.
knowing what it is that brothers are looking for. Because the truth is, when we go out in public, well, I'll say this: if you're an upstanding woman who is looking to appreciate Anu and the culture of Anu and appreciates that a woman has a role, right?
Hmm.
A role in society that isn't gonna be in competition with a man, then you'll appreciate all of the insight that's being shared here.
That's right.
Because now you know how to present yourself and you need to what we need to tweak or
That's right.
you need to tweak so that you are acceptable to the core, not just perceived a
That's
certain way.
right.
Because perception, after a while, a man's eyes can decipher. A man can decipher. That's why we have to remain open to
Mhm.
his logic because
That's right.
he's very discerning, right? Very
Hmm.
discerning. And these our brothers here, astute, globally astute. They know what to look for. They
That's
have
right.
discerning eyes because you know they have GPA
That's right.
ones and twos. So being able to pick apart mannerisms and um, how we present ourselves is very important. And the truth is, you can maybe this is where we pause and we talk about makeup for real because yeah, you could put on all of what you want
Hmm.
to cover or hide it. Who you are comes through.
That's right.
Who you are
That's
comes
right.
through no matter what. No matter what.
That's right. So Abba Yadaram, he also says, in the eyes, if she looks in the eyes, lowers her chin and voice, she is in respect mode and is ready to receive you at what you are addressing. Looking in the eyes, giving the shoulder means she wants to dominate. Mm. And that's really good to know because subconsciously, you can be giving off all the wrong signals, and not even understand or realize what the man is receiving. So again, just like you said, this is I'm learning as I'm reading. And,
Right.
that's another part of that receptivity that we all have to be able to understand. And like you also said, these are a new men that are responding to this. So take heed is the way I see it. Master Menelik says, yes, Chief, vocabulary is another thing. It usually tips you off to that manipulativeness. Mm-hmm. Yep. And Abba Yadaram said, thank you for that, Chief. That's some powerful observation. And Abba Yadaram said, the mask era since COVID has allowed us to see the vanity in many females. They take the mask off so that they can see them, so that you can see them and their prettiness, or so they think. Hey, look at me. Wow. Yeah. which is why a lot of women didn't like the mask. You know what I'm saying? Messed up their lipstick, or they
Right.
did want to be seen. You know,
Well, they
so.
shouldn't they shouldn't be wearing lipstick in any case.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And and that's what the comfort in. And again, we were talking not long ago about the reason why we cover our head, you know, and the reason we cover our hair is
Yeah.
sacred. I believe we were talking about it in the womb,
Yeah.
because different people wear coverings or they cover their hair for different reasons. We do ours because it's sacred. And I remember when I first heard Chief said, well, why would you want everybody to see your crown anyway? It's also to protect that crown that we're most vulnerable at, and not being exposed to people outside of our community and our culture. So, and I've come to where even if I'm going to the mailbox, those people in my neighborhood, they're not in my community. So I'll throw a cover on. I'll put something over my hair. And even like I had someone ask me that I knew a long time ago, it's like, you never show your hair anymore. And my response was, no, why should I? And I left it at that. And they didn't ask and I didn't tell.
Right. Well, yeah. Yeah. It is, and it is a glory, right? So
Hmm.
if it's your glory, then who other than my master should delight in my glory? Who else?
Hmm.
You know, no one else. No one else.
That's right.
No one else. And I also think about the fact that we're told to, you know, go to the Most High, or go in. Well, we don't pray, but affirm and cover your head. And
That's right.
I always, it's funny because from a teen, I would always think of, even though I didn't cover my head,
Hmm.
I would always think about women as being in constant prayer. And we don't pray, but I'm referring to a thought that I had when I was a teen. And I still hold, I think I still hold on to that idea that you're always in constant offering of gratitude, constant,
That's right.
like in a space where you're holding yourself,
That's right.
at a,
That's right.
so it kind of makes you think, okay, well, will you ever, ever be in a space where, just like, yeah, let it all out? I mean, because you're constantly in that space of giving
Hmm.
gratitude, giving thanks,
That's
making
right.
affirmation, communing with the Most High.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I always think about that. Chief says, I find females do not look me in the eyes. The ones who do show visible signs of trying to hold it together.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that.
He says, I unintentionally make people nervous as I have been told my gaze is intense.
Hmm.
Your presence is intense.
That's right. It's almost like he can see right through you. You know what I mean? So I can honestly testify to that.
See, perceive, sense, everything. It's just
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
you
You
cannot
almost
be
feel, yeah.
peripheral.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yep. I
Uh,
have to say that's true. He says,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, no, no.
A result, I tend to look away to allow for them to feel more comfortable in their own presence, personal space. Yeah, because it feels like it's all out there with you.
Yeah, I
I've
gather
actually,
around at some
yeah,
point. Yeah.
I've actually experienced that. Like, yeah, he's gonna see it all. He's gonna, yeah, yeah, that is
Peering
so
into
true.
your spirit, your soul.
Hmm.
Oh,
Shabbat
oh, greetings.
shalom, Zach.
Peace.
Shabbat Shalom, all. I'm going to look at whatever you show me. Then I will put a story together to see if the juice is worth the squeeze. Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. You have your own way of doing things.
Well, he says pre-anu.
Yeah. Oh, see, thank
So
you for catching
post-anu.
that. Yeah.
That.
So where you at now, Aki Zach?
Mm-hmm. Abayadaram says their spirits get mixed matched.
Mixed matched. Yep.
She says that we smell in the spirit like an elephant smells fresh cut bamboo. Oh my
Yeah.
god. Whoa. God, it's not right here, right now. Yes, that spirit will come through like a mug. Master Menelek says, I always tease girls for makeup and especially weave. I like to thank all the horses who died for us. For us. Oh my goodness. So many horses. If only.
Yes.
If only. Aki Zach says it will tell you the red flags that so many folks ignore because one is only looking for carnal reasons. True.
Yes.
Versus the spirit.
Abba Yadarim says that shoulder thing is infamous in our former communities. Think about the rolling neck and all the times many females have argued with men, giving them their side, looking from the side, slapping hands. That was always so ratchet to me. Always thought, and that was one of the things other cultures used to like to do to imitate a black woman with the I can't even do it, with the neck, how she rolls her head around when she's
Right.
talking, and I always thought, where is that coming from? What is she really trying to say? And I even thought that as a woman. So yeah, but I'm even more aware of it now.
No. Yeah, I mean it that's not modest behavior. It doesn't, it
Hmm.
doesn't you don't even it isn't graceful. That's something we haven't even spoken or touched on, just the idea of being graceful in our movement. And um and it's funny, I was actually there's a sister that I actually look at, not because anyway, I look at her because I just find it interesting the things that she shares about, you know, just the way you sit, how to enter a car, how to sit on your dress, how to, you know, all of those
Hmm.
how should I say, ways of being feminine and ways of, just making things easier for yourself as a woman. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, just think about all of those mannerisms and how um, those things were upheld at one point. They were
Hmm.
taught, they were passed down as etiquette, as, you know, how
You,
to carry
you
yourself.
know, I don't see a lot of women, especially on TV or in the media, ex that are graceful. I
Mm-hmm.
think Angela Bassett is one of the people that I've noticed. She's very graceful in how she moves and how she speaks, and she to me, I see a lot of femininity in her, and I'm just talking about when she's presenting, not so much as when she's acting. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, a lot of times we don't even realize. Chief says all things carry spiritual judgment. High heels, infertility, weaves, baldness, perms. uterine cancer, type genes, yeast infections. It's sad that judgment comes and people don't realize it.
True.
Oh man, how true that
True.
is. Yeah, you
True.
just think
True.
it's a natural cause of, oh, everybody gets it there. Oh, yeah, everybody's being judged. Especially, ignorance is no longer an excuse. Well, it never has been according to the courts, you know.
Mhm.
But it really isn't an excuse when it comes to our personal being and how we move through the space. So, Master Menelik learned that in theater, Abba Yadaram, never turn your back or side to who you are speaking to. Mm, yeah. Top tier speaker says, I love that response, Safta Ahava. Why should I?
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm really learning that I used to feel obligated to give explanations or explain myself. And the more I learn, the less I feel I need to say. So,
Abayada Ram asks us a question. The
for you,
table is
Safta,
turned.
what are the two major red flags that you would? Oh, I'll read it out loud. For
Mhm.
you, Safta and Achoti, what are the two major red flags that you would see in a female that may be her major hindrance in her elevating to womanhood?
Mm.
Um, for me, one of them is arrogance. Um, and let's see, arrogance and I would actually have to say feminist behavior at this point. Um,
Mhm.
because until I actually realized I had feminist behavior myself, it was hard to get past myself, and every time it pokes its head up, because I know it's still there, um, I have to, stay on guard and watch it so I can kick it to the curb and say, no, 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 this is not your place any longer. But yeah, arrogance and I guess they kind of go hand in hand. Um, but I think when we're arrogant, we can't. It's hard to receive. That would be one of my answers. And that feminist behavior is just thinking that you're equal, or you can do what a man can do, or you don't need a man, more or less. I think that's part of the biggest, thoughts of a lot of feminists. So, what about you, Akoti?
Mm. I thought of inability to submit or be submissive
Mm-hmm.
to the leadership of a man. That's important. And I think that like kind of goes hand in hand with the idea of being feminist, right?
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
feminist rhetoric is all about getting
Mm-hmm.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one because you know womanhood is designed to kind of to show you how a woman can receive and expand on
Mm-hmm.
what she's given, right? So in order to do that, you have to be submissive. So,
Yes.
I think lack of being submissive and the desire to be in the front all the time,
Mm-hmm.
to think that you're the puppets behind everything, making everything work.
Yeah.
Um, not and I pull that back because I don't want it to be assumed that you should not be the economy because the woman is the economy. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to
Yeah.
have the what did she say? Strategies, tactics, the tactics to execute the strategy. Don't
Mm-hmm.
get me wrong with that, but it's the woman who wants to be the one to tell the man, okay, this is how I'm doing it. This is what is going to be going down. And I think that's directly connected to the question you had, Safta, to the sisters, right? I can't remember what the question was. Something to do with a man who does not want to leave, right?
Right. We were talking, and one of my thoughts were about um, the a woman who is attracted to um, a man who wants her to lead. You know, and I know we had conversations. I remember Chief talking about the balance with the yin and the yang, and I also remember him saying sometimes in relationships, and I believe it was in reference to certain characteristics, because I don't see, when a woman wants to lead, just period, to me there's some dysfunction there. But if there's certain things that may appear to be masculine she can do, um, and he doesn't mind. I think Chief used uh, an example about someone who can make some stairs, or they were good with some handiwork, and
Right,
their mate was not. But that's totally different than being the head of the household,
right,
or leading and guiding the family. Um, and when you were talking about like that feminist not being able to submit, and to be able to and that's big, because if you can't submit, you can't learn, you can't grow, you know and can't receive anything, and it's almost like you become a waste of his time, because he's the one with the vision that you're supposed to help fulfill, so
you,
yeah.
you don't grow to womanhood. You remain
Hmm.
a perpetual child almost. You
You
don't grow.
do. You do. You
Because
really do.
I think that was the question, and womanhood stood out to me in that.
Hmm.
Definitely think so. Um, how many? Oh, Akizak is saying too. How many tattoos does she have? Is her hair dyed? And that foundation that is caked on too, right? Because
Hmm.
something that was really interesting that was part of our build uh, from the affirmative, it had me like digging, because digging, not
Hmm.
digging, the
Hmm.
American, but Chief mentioned that the British Parliament actually in the 1700s instituted a ban on makeup. And I went digging because it's like, I feel like this is not the first time I heard about it. And only to uncover, and he gave a lot. He gave a lot of all of the things that are added, like the toxic additions and additives that are put into makeup, right? And I said to myself, I went digging and actually discovered that originally, and someone said it too, that they crushed gems
Wow.
in, I think it was cross crystal, but yeah, originally lipstick was made from lead. Lead, people, lead and crushed up gemstones, hence kiss of death. So I'm like, well, oh my goodness. And
Wow.
we're over here like reliving these things and paying ode to, you know, that sort of thing. But that's what femininity is not. Femininity is not
That's right.
feminine wiles. And I've
That's
heard
right.
it, and I've coined the phrase before, and I had to say, well, no, 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 no. What are wiles? Because you
That's right.
think wiles are absolutely great qualities that you think, oh, feminine wiles. I said it before. I had to cut it. No. You know what a wile is? A wile is a ploy, a device, a maneuver, a ruse. Get
That's
that?
right.
I was like, but wait. So you are commending and rewarding women for manipulating,
Hmm.
for
And Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
what is it called now that all these people online do it? Is it photoshopping or something? I think that's what they call where they can actually
Filter.
alter their
Mm,
photos, because that was one of the things I dug up, that femininity is not the ability to
mm,
transform your appearance. That
right.
is mostly what is identified as feminine wiles, as you were just
Right.
saying. And
Mm-hmm.
right there in the term black girl magic, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and I thought, even as I mentioned, when I went in the military, I mean, I didn't wear makeup. I was 18 years old. I didn't. It was not, I just didn't have a need for it. Or I didn't think, because I had a friend that started wearing makeup early,
Mm-hmm.
and she was a really pretty girl. And I remember by the time we got to be 30 years old, I couldn't even recognize her without makeup,
Right.
because I got so used to seeing her. I think I went to visit my hometown and I knocked on her door, and she actually came to the door, and I asked, "Is Sandy home?" And she looked at me and she said, "This is me." And I
Mm.
felt kind of bad. I said, "Oh," I think I made up the fact. I said, "I couldn't see you through the screen."
Oh,
But I
okay.
actually did see her,
Oh,
but I
uh,
didn't I didn't, want to be insulting, because I thought, "Oh my God, she don't have eyebrows," or you know what I mean? And she don't have no eyelashes, and
right. You know,
where's that pretty skin color I see? Like Zach said, it was foundation.
yeah.
I was like, but I thought, as a woman, I would, even before I knew, because now it's
Right.
not even a thought, but I couldn't even imagine going home with somebody and they take off the wig, they take off the hips, they take off the breasts, they take off, you know, and then whatever is left is not the person you went home with, you know, and
Right.
and some women are so comfortable doing that. Uh I can't imagine, they'll go home and snatch the wig off.
There are men who accept that. I think that's the thing we can't. If there are men who accept that, and I remember walking through the streets of Brooklyn and Sister Yafe and I having a conversation. We were in deep discourse and not debate, but we were really trying to decipher, who do we as women, who do we dress for? We dress for each other. That's why you taking off all those things when you get home. We dress for each other, because if it were for the men, then you would not be caught dead without all your uh,
All that stuff.
attachments and
Hmm.
paraphernalia or whatever that's supposed to enhance, right?
Hmm.
You wouldn't. Yeah, but I always think about that, like, what is that, like taking off a wig and removing all of the foundation and the makeup, and then you look so different. You
Right.
look so different. And yeah, it's just, yeah.
Uh,
It
I,
goes back to, sorry, I was just wanted to say, like, it goes back to the point that Chief made during the affirmative, that it is casting spells, like
that's right. That's
it
right.
is, witchery,
It
because
is.
and the word, when you say women use feminine wiles, the phrase they use is outfox,
That's right.
outfox a man. I'm like, what? So I mean, we throw around that term all the time, and people smile about it. I'm like, how could you smile about that? You're talking about toxic masculinity. Let's talk about toxic femininity. Let's talk about that
Yeah.
part,
Oh
because
my
that's the
goodness.
actual. Let's talk about that part, because it goes deeper. It goes deeper. So, I mean, we could pull out other things that are indicative of toxic
And
femininity.
before we actually get into that, just as you were still talking about taking off stuff, I was thinking about the story of Esther. And
Mm-hmm.
I was reading that the other day, and I was reading that those women, when they went through the town and got all the virgins, and
Mm,
they were preparing them for the king, to meet the king, they
right.
actually stayed in beauty treatment for a year. And like for
Wow.
every 3 months, it was a certain care, whether from skin or hair or, fragrance and then the way they walked and the way they presented themselves. I believe it said for 12 months.
Right.
And when I think about that, and I think about how we're to teach our daughters or granddaughters how to prepare themselves for womanhood, you know, and what that looks like. I grew up around a lot of Spanish people, and they would have their quinceañera, when they turned 15.
Right.
And it was a time when, I remember my friend up to 6 months before that, she began a grooming process that she would go through. And of course, because I didn't have a culture of my own at that time, it was really interesting to me. But yeah, as we were starting to study for this, I was thinking, and I read a lot about Esther and the preparations that they went through. But what made her stand out um, from the other women was that faithful femininity that she had going on. Because the queen he got rid of became arrogant. You
Right.
remember, she decided, I'm not going to do what he wants me to do. He don't let me come to the party when I want to go, so I'm not going to it when he calls me.
Right.
But I think, and that was what I believe really attracted him. But on the other hand, like you said, that toxic femininity, oh my goodness.
Hmm.
It, I just shake my head because I don't even want to think about it because I lived it for a long time. You know what I mean? And shedding it is like throwing off a weight.
True.
It's like shedding skin, like a snake shedded skin. That's what it feels like to me. And I'm continually shedding, you know. Um, I remember I was what? I didn't do tattoos, but I remember in my 30s, everybody started doing all these multiple tattoos. And
Uh,
not multiple tattoos, but multiple piercings.
mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. I
Not
thought,
that.
well, I won't tattoo, but I'll get everything pierced. You know what I mean? And
Ooh.
I was just looking at Aki Zach said, how many tattoos does she have? If her if her hair is dyed and the foundation, no. He had said something. Who was that? Oh, Master Menelik. Forgot about the tattoos, Aki Zach. Piercings too.
Oh
And
yeah.
I
That.
thought, and of course, women, that was during the time when I think, um, I guess thongs came out.
Oh.
And I remember having a son at the beach covering his whole face just to get him from the beach to the concession stand, thinking, oh my
Boy.
gosh, because that it was nothing like that when I was coming up. But yeah, the piercings on the navel and everywhere else, and women thought that was sexy. I don't remember hearing a man saying it was,
Right.
but I'm sure maybe it was for some. But again, that was that external. We were that's to me one of the most toxic parts of femininity is when we think we can get it through our external, covering. It's not the same. It's not the same.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you can't do those wear those things in your house now, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a time and place for
Oh,
everything. But well, not
absolutely.
everything, but some things, and that's something that you can. It can stay in. It should stay inside. It shouldn't be something that is worn outside, right? Because it's clearly not modest. I just gotta say,
Absolutely. And
not
that's
because.
where, yeah, just like earlier, I mentioned Kama Sutra.
Mm-hmm.
I remember as a group, we all watched the movie where women were taught to be feminine in dance and movement. And we even learn about taking baths. Now, I didn't wear makeup, but what I would invest in when I was young is I love fragrances. And
Mm,
I couldn't stand cheap perfumes. I could smell them a mile away. And especially if you're not clean, cheap perfume is your worst enemy. There's nothing like that. But that's toxic when you don't, because when you don't eat right, that radiates through your skin also. And
yeah.
yeah, when you don't it's just a lot of that goes into taking care of yourself, and a big part of that does start with how you eat. And I'm learning that now. I've eaten horrible most of my life, and I'm very thankful that I didn't do more damage. And now that I'm in a new and I'm learning about the healing things we can put in our bodies, um, I'm catching some of it, but that's also part of that toxic femininity is, and we feed it to our mates and our children, you
Right.
know, and you think, oh, I can cook ham hocks, oh, I can cook a big pot of greens and ham hocks and chitlins, and you're killing your family. And that's not, you know, when I was growing up, they used to say a way to a man's heart is through his stomach. That's a good way to kill him too, if you're not, you know, feeding him the right things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where that, here we go again with the knowledge, you know. Um, one of the things that Akizak says here is, if she starts trying to teach me or correct me, run.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
That's yeah. It's yes, no,
yeah,
that's it. Like pretty much.
yeah.
Yes, that's it. It's no, yeah, because yeah.
And even with our discussion tonight, it's all because we have been poured into, and
Right.
because we've been taught. And it's not like there's nothing we can sit here and teach our men, because everything that we're reflecting and have come to understand and appreciate has been poured into us, and that's one of the most beautiful things that I really can say I enjoy.
Right.
That's why it's so funny when we sit here, we look at the chat, and even earlier as I was saying, wow, I'm still learning stuff. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know that about just looking in the eyes. And I can only imagine the people I ran off by thinking I knew something and wanted to thought I was showing off how smart and intelligent I was, and it was very unattractive, you know. And I was thinking about that as I was reading Akizak's statement about trying to correct me or teach me. You know,
Right.
I'm out of here. Yeah. And MGC Randy, aka Rash Kush, he says, I always hated to see females with weave, also master intellect, especially the Foxy Brown down to her butt. Oh, that's a new thing now. I noticed the young ladies are wearing the braids and the weave that comes all the way to their behind.
Mm.
And I thought, hmm. And I think if it's synthetic hair, that's got to be awful. And if it's human hair, whose spirits you walking around with, tied, sewed in your head? Oh, so yeah, yeah. That's I don't know. I guess they think that's beautiful. I think it's toxic, because we're teaching our young women all the wrong things about beauty,
Right.
and there's nothing you can put on, sew on, paint on that's going to make you beautiful, because when it washes off or you take it off, there you are, you know? So, yeah,
Yeah, and possibly it's the focus is on the wrong thing,
there it
you
is.
know, because the focus is on the wrong thing. You know, it isn't, you know, what's the brand name of my threads? Because then your mind, as Chief mentioned, that's when your mind is belongs to someone else, right? Um,
Mhm.
what are you consuming?
That's
You
right.
know, sometimes it's as simple as that, and not just what are you consuming, meaning what are you putting in your mouth. What are you consuming visually? What are you consuming auditorily? Like, you know, what are you putting yourself open to or opening yourself up to?
Hmm.
um, whose presence do you, you know, spend the most time in? What's the
That's
type of
right.
environment you're in? You know, are you putting lead on your lips? She spoke about the collagen and some of the products and so on. Those are the things. But the truth is, are you working? Are we as women working on ourselves? And the truth
That's right.
is, she has shared this before many times. You cannot work on yourself if you do not have, drum roll please, direction,
Right.
knowledge,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And this is an old. I don't know if anybody remembers this one. This one was this one. They're all good. There's no. I think Manaya and I was talking about it. It's like they're all good. Like gems for days, you know.
That's right.
Gems for
That's
days.
right.
Um, marriage and things. Marriage and things. Chief actually begins to talk about the value, and this is a true story. Light actually purifies.
That's right.
UV light purifies, and he speaks about the fact that woman as water, we want to be agitated by the wind, which
That's
is
right.
masculine, right? Makes sense. We want to be purified by the light of the sun, masculine. We must be. That's the only way we could get to actually
Hmm.
function, like stand and move in our function. We can be, we become potable water. We become water that can be healing and purifying.
That's right. That's right.
So the only way to actually grow and to become better and to shift the old programming is to be in the presence of a righteous man. That's the only
That's right.
hope. Is nothing else.
That's
You
right.
know, you keep spending your $200 or maybe it's more for the lace fronts. I don't know whatever they call, but eh, it's not gonna do.
And you know, another thing that's become a big deal is people saying, "Oh, I have a therapist. Oh, I go see a therapist." And it's like the blind leading the blind because a lot of women in this society experience depressions, and they don't even realize why they're so depressed. Well, number one, like we talked about, sewing somebody else's hair in your head, and it's not to mention all the spirits from the thoughts that you create, that it's just, you're in the dark. And I was saying that because I was thinking about another video that Chief did where he talked about, when you feel that darkness overcoming you, as we do as women, he said, get in the light, let some light in on it. And that's what is the beautiful thing, one of the things, because even though we have our separate spaces where the women have their time and place to be, and the men have a place where they get together on Sabbath, we do have our study group where we're all together. And man, you talk about the light shining during that time. It's a beautiful thing. So we still get a time of being together as a community. But when you're just around other you're a toxic female, you got toxic female friends, it's like the blind leading the blind. You go to your girlfriend for advice or direction. Um, you know, she probably in just a darker space as you are. So again, like you said, we're chaos. And without that light, it's like you're going to be stagnant, and there's no room, or there's no potential even for growth. um I was just going to go, I don't know what just happened to, but she'll be back. I'm not going to worry about it, she'll be right back. But Aki Zach says, I still look at the same thing, just not on the same pursuit. And Abba Yadaram said, Safta can't roll the neck with raps. Just doesn't work. That's so true. And Ben says, Malachi 3, verse 18, buy in spiritual discernment. And yeah, and you know what? Even when I used to study the Bible, my understanding of it then, when I studied it by myself, is totally different than having that light shining on it and getting that extra. I'm not going to say extra, I'm just going to say that real interpretation and the discernment that I never even saw, because I was only looking through, you know, darkened eyes. And Master Menelik says, yeah, um, MGC Randy, I know that fake long hair look. Meanwhile, they like Akuma when they took that thing out. Oh my goodness. um, and Akizak said, judgment comes and is swift. Searching outside themselves, think that the problem must be somewhere else. Yep, yep. Makes me think of the social identity theory too, where one leads to be pretty, but nothing about beauty. Ain't that the truth? And it's such a big difference. You know, that old saying, all the glitters ain't gold. Yeah. Um, Master Menelik says, is that these feminine things are not being consciously taught, or have they just not being modeled for so long that it seems as exceptional as, I'm sorry, I just lost my place. Yeah, I think we're having some technical difficulties. Some things are just jumping around here on my screen as well. But I understand what you said, Rashkush, because for a long time now, women have not passed down the traits of being beautiful to their daughters and really taught them what that looks like. And it has to radiate from the inside out. You can't put it on and wear it. So that's one of the things that is really, you know, in the past that people just don't do anymore. So let's see where we're at. I'm thinking Achoti Moreyah is having some internet issues as well. So Yafe said, it's crazy because I used to think I actually didn't live because I never got a tattoo. Hmm. Nowadays, people are getting blood poisoning from needles. And, you know, I understand now they have a new laser removal system where we can only think of what that does when you can laser the ink out of your skin. And Akizak says, and it absorbed directly into the bloodstream too. That's right. That's right. Master Menelik says, I overthought my way out of tattoos. Couldn't decide on the right design. I was just scared of the needles, which is another reason And it was the only reason I was never a drug addict when it come to needles, at least not those kind of drugs back in the day, because yeah, I couldn't do the needle. And Imanaya says, yes, Safta, I used to have many fragrances, had to trade the Eludi toilets for oils. Yeah, me too. They're much more natural. So Chief Yuya says, Corinthians 3:16, don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple and that God's spirit dwells in your midst? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And I think that particular scripture was the reason that I didn't really want a tattoo because, I was in the church thing during that time. And that was one of the things I'm glad I did refrain from. And Akizak says, yeah, erecting Solomon's temple. And Akizak says, trying to put the three before the one. Master Menelik says, what physically consume is important too. Yeah, talk about smelling the truth oil. Truth. I said oils. Smelling the truth. If you don't make it a point to eat what agrees with your body, then how you supposed to feed your family? Oh, that's true. That's really true. It's speaking about being feminine. I know the women and I we had a little joke about when you don't eat something that agrees with your stomach, and how you dealt with that when you were in the company of men. And I remember growing up thinking, oh, you can't lose your manners in front of men. That was a no when I was growing up. So you see women just get up and run out of the room, or they just they yeah, that was just a no. So yeah, not only does it radiate out of your skin, but it can also come out in other ways that's not so pleasant. Thank you, Imanaya, for putting marriage and things, the link for that in the chat. Master Menelik says, there she goes again, Ima. The fastest hand in the West. Yep, she is. She is. Give thanks for her. Akizak says, oh boy, soft. Many get into healing works because it makes them feel better about themselves, yet their own lives look like hell and scale. You know, that's yeah, if you can't heal yourself, what that look like for others, you know, that is so true. So Master Menelek says, good point, Safta. Many sisters get in that dark space and get into even darker spaces, surrounding themselves with female friends who don't have any light either. And there lies the destruction of why a lot of women are where they are today. Um, they don't have no light, they have no guidance, there's no direction. And if there are, I'll say, males around, if it's not a righteous man, and I'll have to be honest, I didn't know what that looked like until I came into a righteous community. But you know, it's so important that, and I do know some men that aren't even in churches, but they still do that have their head on, halfway right, and they still do a better job than any woman who thinks she's consciously on point. You know, Chief Yuya says, I thought y'all had more than one question for us. Oh, we do. We do. Matter of fact, I'm not sure what happened to Achoti Moreyah, but let's see. Give me a second. I'm going to where we had the other one. So And this is another question for the men. What are the qualities that I should say the priority as you are looking to have a help meet? What are some not just the required qualities, but the qualities you are looking for in a help meet? And while you are coming up with those answers, Chief says it's interesting, Safta. You talk about passing down traits of beauty. Many model the tools of being attractive and use that to do nothing but manipulate. Beauty would require soul to Yah therapy. See, that's that line I'm talking about, you know, because some of us as women don't even know what beauty is. But yes, beauty requires soul to Yah therapy. Yakira Eden says you're doing great working through the technical issues. Softer, thank you. Because I was like, oh, I'm by myself. So Chief says Achoti Moreyah's computer shut down. The issues is on her end. Okay. Well, at least I know. But I'm amongst family, so I'm learning. Um, Naya's ability to recall and provide our teaching is an attractive quality. Nothing more sickness than a female who is poured into, but her dry sand structures won't allow receptivity and growth. Wow. Yes. Yes. I can relate to that. Um, for a long time, I sat in this space, not um, pretty much feeling intimidated until I realized why was I intimidated when I was receiving so many tools, so much information, and being taught to be able to move righteously and move, in a way that I was purposed to move in. So yeah, I think to recall and provide our teaching is an attractive quality. Um, I'm glad to hear that. And yeah, Imanaya, you do pretty good at that with your morning greetings as well. So Master Menelik says, very true, Chief Yuya. Talking to a black hole is exhausting and dangerous. Their main response to being told what they're doing is to try to drain you more while fringing ignorance. Yeah, um, it reminds me of that scripture which talks about not tossing your pearls before swine, because here you are giving out all this good food and life giving information only to have it sit and become stale and get molded because it's not being used, it's not being applied. And I think all the time about things Chief tell us, like if you read something or you read a book, please forgive me on my paraphrasing, but if you read something but you can't teach it, then you don't know it. And it causes me to really think twice before I share things. And I always want to go back and read it a second and a third and a fourth time. And each time I read it, it gets deeper and deeper. And sometimes I get different understandings. Um, and again, as I sit here, I constantly think of how fortunate we are to be in a space where, especially for the women here, and how we're poured into and protected and guided and directed and corrected. So, Chief says attentiveness, good health, love for my Yah, total commitment to my mission, and delightful spirit. sisterly nature, quiet, submissive, sensual, spiritually fertile, and skilled and wise. Yes, here she comes.
Peace. I apologize. Everything just dropped out on me, but you are holding it down.
Oh boy, I tell you, I'm surrounded by an awesome group of people. I tell you, better known as God people.
That's right.
So, and I'm so thankful for just everybody in the chat that is contributing to this build. And I learned that every time I come in on one of these, I learn more than what I come with. So it's an awesome experience.
It
Um, Abba Yadaram said, a top quality for me at this time is willingness to become a part of an expanded family with children, her ability to be resourceful, a mind for business and development. Um, I was asking the question, Koti Moreyah, uh,
mm,
mainly to our men on the call, what they're looking for in a helpmeet, outside of the required qualities or that we have in a new. And let's see, Akizak said, "Come with it, Chief." And Master Menelik said she's teachable and a keen listener, understands the concepts and value of being covered to the point that she actively keeps herself pure, caring, and nurturing. Yeah, yeah. And Chief says, being more seasoned and in tune with the exhausting nature of my work, I have come to realize that sisters who are attentive without needing to be told to my maintenance are valuable. Yeah, that's that woman of good understanding material. Yeah. And I know we all taking notes, right, ladies? Akizak says, I was going to say soft spoken and for the cause. I had to take a screenshot of this chat. That's right. That's right. We living and learning on this side of the fence, I know. So I'm very grateful for those responses from our men of Anu. Achoti, are you still there?
oh, I'm here. I'm just, reading through the chat too to catch up with everything
Okay.
I kind of missed. I don't think my camera is working. That's part of the issue.
Hmm.
We were working through that earlier, but it's good to see you. Did you pose the second question?
I did. I asked about the helpmate. I know we had another question also,
We did.
um, other than the helpmate. And I'm not sure. I know, I think we did have another question. I'm almost positive we did.
Yeah, we did.
Can you pull it up? I'm not, for some reason, I'm not able to.
Which one did you ask?
I asked about the helpmate, and there was a
See
third one also.
what a man is looking for. Okay, and I saw some uh, great responses. This one. Was it this one?
Oh, now that one was for our women in the chat. And before we go to that one, I wanted to finish reading some of the responses from the men. The last one I read was Chief Yuya's. Akizak was and then Master Mill, like you ain't never lied with keen listener. Yes, Yes, and Master Menelek, diligent and reveals in her femininity. It reveals in her femininity a good teacher of children and sisters, business minded and administrative, actively supports the vision. That's so important that we can actually support the vision of our mate, cover, master. That's I think that's big. MGC Randy Rajkush says a woman who is emotionally mature, kind, respectful, receptive, self managed, committed to reaching the highest good of the kingdom. Yes. Again, we keep tapping into um, the required qualities of what a new woman should display.
Feels
Chief,
like I'm moving through the chat. I'm trying to see where you are, but I'm not.
okay, right here. I don't
What
know,
time stamp?
at 8:41 with Chief Yuya. Do you see where we're at?
8:41.
Yeah. Well, that's what mine says. I'm not
Oh,
sure because I'm over here in the Midwest.
got you.
But you see where Chief Yuya answer number three,
Yes, yes, I see it.
multilingual.
Yeah,
Yeah,
10:41.
yeah.
My time.
Feel
Cool.
free to go ahead and read that one.
Oh, okay. No, you could go ahead. I just wanted to see where you were reading from because I
Okay.
couldn't see it. hmm Um, okay, so I think you read Abba
Rush
MGC
Kush.
Randy Raskush.
Yeah.
Okay. Answer number three. Oh, Chief has three answers. Okay.
Mhm.
Multilingual, multi-citizenship weapons proficiency. Hmm. Lifelong student, selfless, agendaless, rural, a quiet storm of wisdom. Out of the matrix, father is her best friend.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's saying a lot, but that also reflects back onto the required qualities of being studious, industrious, you know, wow, it's so many things there. And I think we should be taking a picture of some of these things as well. Imanaya, it says no. I'm not sure what that meant.
Right. No, no either. Yes, definitely some gems. More
Mm-hmm.
gems than than Jacob the jeweler. Oh my goodness. Chief also says no history of dating thugs, simps, rappers, or entertainers. Healer, globally minded.
Mm.
Yes, Master Menelek from the Shadow Realm. Oh boy. Okay. Talk about femininity and darkness. Oh my goodness.
Yes. Yes. Well, I can't think of any of our bills within a new, whether it's on the midday affirmative, um, on
Mm-hmm.
our Sabbath calls, our study groups, and especially on our fellowships, that I haven't walked away with a wealth of information that's just not, it's not just for the hearing, but for the doing. So this is definitely full of, it's a wealth of information that I could really appreciate.
Yeah, and it is it helps, it helps
Hmm.
all women listening and tuning into this. Young women, um, particularly because novelty is absolutely amazing.
Hmm.
For brothers, it is a wealth of knowledge so that you can take that and begin to fashion and mold your skill set and the attributes and so on. That doesn't mean that
Hmm.
still can't work on developing,
That's
because there
right.
are things that we can develop.
That's right. That's right. Oh, I see, Imanaya, and we're going to get right back to that question in just a moment. She was talking about the question we posed for the um, women about um, the men. But before we go there, Chief Yuya continues: feminine posture, clothing, voice, Pam Grier, level sexy, open minded, little yo none. What is it? Little yo no
To
social
know. I
to
think it's
know.
little to
Oh,
know.
little to know social media, natural hair and skin, athletic, genetics, has career, and not job, no obesity or health issues. Yeah, all that matters in being able to function through all that's required. Yep. Master Menelik says she's just a black belt. I'm the corn master. Exactly. Okay. Okay. Achoti Moreyah, did you have that question for the women?
Are you ready for the question now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Let's see where they're at. It says, and this is for the women, but the men, please do chime in because I'm sure you have some insight on this that we can't see from our point of view. And it says, are you attracted to a man who lets you take the lead?
And when we posed this question, when we actually typed it in, because we were going back and forth about it, it was kind of like, well, we kind of know what our new woman will respond and say. We know what the responses will be. But because we're talking to a global community, if you're watching this and you see the question, um, please, like take a pause for a cause and, drop your responses in the chat, because not in the chat rather, but in the comment section,
Mm-hmm.
because it helps. And I think, as you said before, with all of the responses that the brothers are giving, this is food. This is
Mm-hmm.
good, solid food for any young woman, um, who wants to live, function, and be a part of a righteous community. And
That's right.
maybe you even see Anu and you're like, I peep this, right here. And I want to be Anu. It gives you a list of things to kind of consider, to not
That's
just consider, but check on, and make
that's
sure you're augmenting and improving and developing those.
right.
So,
And and in all honesty, when I asked that question, it was because I had to check myself. Because are there still some times when I'm thinking um, that in actually mating, I would want to take the lead in any area? The thought crossed my mind, and I'm thankful that I can immediately respond, nope,
mhm.
nope, because there's nothing I think I can do better than a man at this point uh, that is outside of my role, you know. And I just have to be honest, and I think it's something we all need to search ourselves because it helps us to be more receptive when we understand and realize that we don't want to take that lead. Even if we had a man who said, okay, take the lead, I would question if I'm in the right place, if that's what I found myself in, and why would I even want to take the lead? Why would he give me the lead? And we're not talking about in certain things as far as certain skills, like I mentioned earlier. You might have a woman who, has an ability to build certain things, and I think as I forget what that the example was. I think it was front steps or something like that. And her husband told her, have at it. That wasn't his forte. But again, he gave her direction to do that. Um, Chief says nothing exists without an external outcome or coupled dualism, like a vice and a virtue. That wisdom too teaches the power of balance. Yeah, absolutely. That was something else I've learned in the new, and I'm still learning. Master Menelik says, "Yeah, Chief, Yuya, athletic genetics is a must. There's a difference between soft and soggy. Loyalty knows the body and how to heal it, keep it healthy." That's right. That's right. Chief Yuya says, "My list may seem exhaustive, though it's much longer than that, but I am also in tune with the value I bring and the fact that she better see that value and behave accordingly." You know, that the first time I heard Chief mention that a woman should be wanted and not needed, I um I had to really think on that and understand. And then I watched the Are You I believe the podcast was a woman, or are you a man of high value? Or I don't even know if it gave a gender. Are you of high value? And I began to really think about what it is you're bringing to the table, and again, we're not talking about the external things, but well, some external, what your credit score look like, how do you handle finances, um, but it's very important that are you physically able to assist in nation building, in kingdom building, and it's not just about having, hey, there you are, and it's not just about um, having children, because once you're past that stage of childbearing, you don't your usefulness is not done. There are so many other things that you bring to the table as of value that would make you wanted, you know. And as a woman, I think it's beautiful to be wanted and not just needed. Um, and that's something I'm learning and living through, because I thought the value was always in being needed. So, what do you think, Achoti?
Hmm. Um, I was reading in the chat. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Honestly, I was reading in the chat. Oh my gosh. You got me. I
Yeah,
was trying to catch up in the chat reading. That's what's going on.
yeah. Are you at the one for Master Middlewhack
I
after Chief?
I missed so many. That's what I was trying to do. Read, go back and read some of
Okay.
the ones. But Aki Zach, did you respond to Aki Zach's question?
How long did it take me to get? No, I hadn't got down that far. Actually, I had just
Oh, okay.
finished the one from Chief, um, or excuse me, Master Benelek, who talked about there's a difference between being soft and soggy,
Right. Okay.
and loyalty knows the body and how to heal it, keep it healthy. And oh, I'm sorry. I just the last one I read was Chief Yuya. He said, "My list may seem exhaustive, though it's much longer than that. But I'm also in tune with the value I bring and the fact that she better see that value and behave accordingly." And that's why I was talking about, what value that a woman brings, because We are to be wanted and not needed. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was the last one I left off at.
Yeah, that women are desired. I hear
Yeah.
I hear Chief says that shares that all the time, that women are desired.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, yeah, but I think it goes right back to the idea of the question that we posed to the sisters, right? Are you attracted to a man who lets you take the lead? Um, because the point I think I wanted to make was just connecting the fact that we need leadership.
That's
Like,
right.
we need direction. All right. And I think that's why I was caught, because I was reading what Sister Yafe put in the chat, which was like thumbs up in my brain. Thumb upping. Yeah, putting a thumbs up on it in my brain, because she said we have a realm that we are required to lead in, right?
That's
So we are to lead within the realm of teaching younger women and teaching
right.
children, right? Maintaining the culture um, of our community, being those culture keepers. That's where we take that leadership in,
Uh-huh. That's so true.
you know.
That's so
But
true.
we don't need men. We don't need, or we're not attracted. We would not be attracted to men who lead.
That's
Not
right.
at all. Not at all. Um, not at all. That's something that men need. That's something men actually need. And I think I was having like other thoughts too. There are a couple of things that came across my mind, because I came across some information where they were talking about the psychologists, like they're talking about some new laws that they put in place, or some new expectations for men and boys, for the treatment, the psychological treatment of men and boys. And that particular treatment actually says that, what was it? Because I wrote it down, because it's like, this is crazy. Traditional masculinity is harmful because, according to the APA, it compromises the mental health of boys and men, and it presents a social danger, right? So that's like, you're encouraging, this the crazy side of this question. You're
Right.
encouraging um, men to select something other than what they're naturally created to be and do, and you're priming psychologists, people who are supposed to support and help them to get back to a place. You're priming them and preparing them to remove the masculinity out of them.
See,
That's
see, see, this is what happens when you throw everybody in the same pot.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Because back and Chief's always saying he already sees what's coming before it gets here. And
right,
he talked about how they were preparing us to bring everybody out of the closet. Back in the day, it was just certain people talking about, well, I'm coming out of the closet. Now everybody's out of the closet, and you throw everybody into the same thing, and you require the same things from everybody, and you forget that we're not the same. We're not the same. We didn't come here with the same agendas. And I'm just speaking of basics. Women have a function and men have a function. And we've crossed those lines so terribly that unless we make sure we take our youth out of this society and the culture, they're going to be confused, and again, it's so sad to think of the fact that people just there's no difference in identity, which means there can be no balance. I was just thinking when you were talking about that, um, I was just listening to a podcast earlier where Chief was talking about the yin and the yang and the
Right.
climbing. There's always an ascension and you go up you go up a mountain, and there's always a descent also coming down that mountain. And if it's not there, it's just Jacob's ladder, And I just, I feel for the youth that are not in a culture or a community that's going to be able to help them draw the right lines and boundaries in the right place, because if they're not taught, they're just going to go with the flow, unless it's that ember that, some children are born with that
Right.
just tells them that's wrong, that's not right, this is a different way to go. I notice our chat's getting away from us again. Um, Master Menelik is saying, I also agree that when a woman knows what with to bring you without you needing to say it, feels like breathing a sigh of relief after a long day. Yeah, yeah, that's you know, it's deeper than just knowing your community, but knowing the needs of your master. And Chief said something earlier about, you know, as far as a helpmate, he needed a woman who was aware of the exhausting and taxing work that he does. So she knows how to assist him. And, 9 times out of 10, she's gonna, of course, we always ask what you need, but then there's just some things she's automatically gonna know, to do and to have in place, as a helpmeet. And uh, Akizek said, "How long did it take to you to get to that place, Safta?" And I'm wondering if that was when I was talking about, we're behind so in the
Yeah.
chat, and
Uh,
there's been so much said. So, Aki, you might have to ask me again. You have to remind me what that was in reference to.
yeah.
Um, Chief says, "Yes, Master Menelik, I'm so tired of telling sisters how to cook, dress, clean, and when I need my shoulders rubbed, it's gotten old at this point. At this point, prepared wives, mothers, or bust." you know, um, yeah, and that's what the older women, when you were talking about where we as women lead, it is our job in a community. Once we've learned and know, how to prepare and teach the younger women, I think that's going to be a saving grace, um, in the building community, in building, excuse me, nation building, because they have to know what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and how to get to know and read their master and their mates and their coverings, how to read them to the point of, yeah, there are some direction that's always going to be there, but there's some things we just need to know. I think Akote Yafe is answering no to that question.
Yeah. All the sisters answered no.
Mhm. Yeah, and like you said, we already know what we need. For those out there who still think they want to be in a relationship, even when a man is in agreement of saying, "Yeah, go ahead, do what you need to do," or she's running things. And how often do we hear that when a man says, and now I it's called a happy wife, a happy life,
Mm-hmm.
and that's so backwards because happy wife, happy life. You know, I think that when we keep a righteous mate or master happy, then our life automatically becomes enjoyable and happy because we're fulfilling our purpose at that point. And that's to me, that's a goal. That's something that we just really need to. I think we've lost the. We've been so derailed in this society that we don't know, where true joy and happiness comes from anymore. But when you look at all the kids that are not being mothered, or the sons that are not being taught, and we're just putting our youth in the hands of a society that's lost, what do you expect? They're going to be lost.
The happy wife, happy life is very sinister.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
sinister because I guess that's the outfoxing again,
That's right.
and but it's also strong arming in a sense
Mm-hmm.
because it's like
Mm-hmm. That's
I,
it.
I can't say those words. The men, that's it. They can say those words, but
Yeah.
it's like happy wife, happy life. So what are you saying? If she's not happy, what you're saying is if she's not happy, she's gonna be like a pipe dripping.
There
She's
you go. There
you
you
she's
go.
gonna put your life through hell. She's gonna put you through hell. That's what she's saying. So appease her. It's the wrong way.
And she don't even know what makes her happy. That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing.
What will make her happy is actually the direction
That's right.
and her being the one to please you. That's what's gonna make her happy.
Hmm.
That's the truth. A
Not,
real
yeah, not being in chaos.
one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in darkness, stumbling around trying to figure out which
See.
way you're going. Yeah, and Akizak says,
Interesting. If we were to only actually examine the sayings and the things that we're told, if we were to examine it, we would see. I just found the light on this. Oh my goodness. Oh, but now I look like an alien. All right, yeah, hold on. Better. But yeah, if we were to examine some of these sayings and just not take them for safe face value, and that's the power of being in Anu, right? That's the power of being in Anu and being able to see
mm-hmm.
and decipher the truth because you can hear something, but you're not hearing it the same way. It doesn't compute in the same way it did before you had wisdom, before you were given this knowledge. And it's not dead knowledge, but knowledge you could apply that's actually breathing life into you.
That's
Right?
right.
It allows for the things you hear and the things people to say to come alive.
That's
And
right.
deconstructing it, you say, but wait, no, that's not right. Because you know how many times I've heard that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'll say the same thing about feminine wiles. Like you hear these phrases, I'm like, but wait, do you even know what you're saying?
That's right. That's right.
No, 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 no.
That,
And yeah, and I've heard so many people say that. Oh, happy wife, happy life. I'm like, that's a threat. Are you
it
kidding?
is. It is.
Wrong. You're wrong.
It is.
Whoa.
And,
Wow.
and you know what? And
Oh,
half the times those women aren't bringing nothing but headaches. You know what I mean? And I know I've been a headache to somebody at some point in my life. You know, so it is. It's very different. And Akizak says, for those who have eyes to see, yeah. Achoti Yafe says, my lead should only be over the things that are within the realm of the woman. That's right.
yeah.
That's exactly right. And yeah, because we do have a place where we do need to lead. Um, but you know what? We only know where that is because we have a leader who is showing us where our direction should be, and where we need it and directed to be most.
Mm.
So, and top tier speaker, of course, said no. Master Minilek says, "Are you high value now?" Um, um, I believe I am. because I know my role. I mean, and I'm new at it, but yet I've lived enough and I've done enough wrong to know exactly what I'm supposed to do and what I'm not supposed to do. So I would consider myself high value because my mind is in the best interest of my master covering mate. That's where my goal is to help to be a helpmate that meets the vision, and I'll be told how I can do that. And that's easy. I don't even have to come up with a plan. All I got to do is follow the plan I'm told. And
Mm-hmm.
I know I've done it wrong for, I'm not going to say how many years, but for a long time I've been, you know, um, doing it wrong. So yeah, I think I'm high value because I know my role, I know my place, and I can be good in doing what I'm supposed to do. Um, Imanaya says, "Are you high value now?" Oh, that's the She put the link in there. There you go, Ima.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, and again, all these links,
Mhm.
in addition to the ones we naturally came up with, they'll be in the description for you all. And it's great because then what you almost have is like a little mini playlist, right? For every single one of these bills, the affirmatives, and even each of the fellowship, there's a little mini playlist that's attached underneath the description. So you get to look at all of the different concepts that Chief breaks down, or any one of them, the members that we break down during one of these programs, and you get to connect it and you get to see the bigger picture, right? Because that's the other thing. Each one of these shows and segments, they're about an hour and more. So that it's like, yeah, that's a beautiful benefit. um,
And there's no excuse for not understanding where everything I've learned in this community. I'm not just listening to someone to tell me, well, this is how it is and this is how it is. I've been given the tools to go and search it out for myself if I haven't already lived it out for myself. And it's tried and true. I have not been given any bad information. And the Bible says, seek out your own salvation with fear and trembling. So having these links in the reference, you get to go and actually see where we're getting it from,
right.
and what led to us to be where we are. And if you got a clear mind and a heart for the Most High, you know, the spirits that come from learning all this information, you can't go wrong. But if you still trying to, manipulate the truth and figure out how you can squeeze in, what you want to do. And someone once told me that's how we got so many different religions,
Right.
because, one wants to do this one. Well, let's just take that out and, we'll stay the same, but we won't do that. And we'll call ourselves this,
Yes.
So yeah, we're truth seekers for real, and it's all tried and true. So thank you so much, Imanaya, for keeping them links in there. And Achoti, I know you put some in as well.
So Chief says, did we read this one?
No, actually, we're at a new radio where radio says, I don't think any woman is attracted to that naturally. I think we've been sold the idea of equality. But when that mess manifests, it's a turnoff. That is so true. You know, you want to be the boss and then you want to turn around and tell the man how worthless he is. You want to wear the pants and leave him not wearing nothing. You know? So
Somebody taught us that though.
yes,
We don't naturally function like that. So someone gave us a cat in a bag. That's what I was trying to say when I
yeah,
got cut off, I think, some
yeah,
how many years ago. You
yeah.
know, we're sold a cat in a bag, and we're told, okay, this is acceptable. This is, you know, demean, totally, denigrate, take away all of the manhood out of man.
That's right.
You know, that's
That's right.
bad. That's
Now we're at Chiefs. If you wanted to,
no, you could go ahead.
it says, oh, and then Yakira Eden said no. Of course, she no, no. We know better, sis. Sisters don't understand that men. This is Chief Huya. Sisters don't understand that men do not fraternize and go above and beyond for their base requirements, but they do for what they desire. Want is a powerful feeling. Yeah, yeah. And I believe that with all everything in me that it is much better to be desired than to be needed. Because what happens when you're no longer needed, you know? So and it's been very telling on what the men here at A New Desire, as we go back and just look at everything that was put in the chat. It's I tell you what, it's when you talk about being high value, as I look at some of the things that are required, I'm just happy that being in this community, these are the things that we're taught and we learn and we work it out. We're not just taught it; we have to apply it, you know. And I think we were talking about being about gemstones in one of our study groups, and we were talking about how when you find them like a diamond, and I never knew this. Someone said a diamond is, you know, for some reason I was thinking when you find a diamond, it's like a crystal, and you just have to polish it and sign it up, you know. But no, someone was telling me it's almost like a piece of coal that has to be, when they say diamond in the rough, it doesn't look anything like a diamond before the work is done. And then it comes out to be a precious stone, and that's the way it is. It's better if we can raise our daughters and our young girls to learn the being faithfully feminine from the beginning than to get to a place as I've gotten to in my life where you have to learn it. But don't get me wrong, I'm still thankful that I had an opportunity, and and I'm not passing through this journey without getting the most important thing that I could have gotten on this journey, and that's a purpose, and to understand that I was created with a thought in mind. And it's a beautiful thing. It really is.
I know that's what Chief was referring to a few comments up when he said prepared wives or mothers or slash mothers or bust. You
Hmm.
know, so
Hmm.
you're not learning it on the job.
That's
You're,
right.
you are
Prepare.
prepared for
Mhm.
that, and the conversation is had over and over again. You're explicitly taught this because it's the culture of the home
That's
that
right.
the woman is coming from, to do this and this, so that you're being prepared, because I think the premise is too, being prepared for marriage.
That's
And
right.
because you're being prepared for marriage, it's all spelled out for you. This is how you walk, talk, eat, whatever it is.
Right.
I mean, how many times have we seen I haven't heard. Yes, films, but is a representation of what really has to happen.
That's
How does this man like this thing? And you learn how to prepare that thing.
that's right.
But and it's
Mhm.
strategic because now you're going into a position where it's like you have to have those things ready, right? And I'm not just talking about food or but anything. It may be how he wants his books done. I don't know. It just but it's preparation, so that way it happens beforehand, so you're encountering someone and becoming one with someone
That's
who
right.
is ready for
That's
their, they know exactly what it is that they have to do.
and to know that when he comes into his home, when he walks through those doors, the ambiance is going to be that that tells him you can take off your armor now. You
Mhm.
can relax. It has to be a safe space. And when I say a safe space, it's not meaning he's not gonna still be on his toes, representing, protecting, and running his homestead. I'm
Right.
talking about it's a place where um and even let his guard down to a certain extent, to where he's not always cocked and loaded. Uh, um, of course, when it's always a time and a place and order in the way things are done and the structure of the home that he chose to set it up for a certain way. So yeah, there's a lot to being prepared and preparing young women, and they should start learning at a young age so they just know, even by just an example of watching their elders and mothers and older sisters, and this is how a lady walks, this is how
Right.
a faithfully feminine woman talks. you know there's always a soft tone there, there's a gentleness there, and I think, as you mentioned, just because you're gentle doesn't mean you're not firm when it
Mhm.
comes to certain things. um, but I was wondering what Master Menelik was talking about, having flashbacks of that prison food.
I do, because he said somebody was on parole too. So I was like, well,
He probably told about. And Kote Yafe says, I think that is true as well, a new radio. But then, as Chief has said many times before, then when those females realize that is unnatural, they're looking for someone who can control me. Yeah, and that's in reference to the question about, yeah, we were taught that,
yeah.
we were sold that, but and I too have lived that, but because I have lived that, and now that I've been exposed to truth, your soul and your spirit, when you get truth, because it does set you free in a way. It might not seem comfortable or make sense when you first get it, but when you walk in it and you apply it, it's natural.
Mm-hmm.
It is natural, and you think, wow, I've been doing it the wrong way all this time.
Yeah.
Um, MGC Randy says, agreed, Chief. If every action requires a vocal cord to be used, it is very exhausting and a no go. Yeah, that feminine female is gonna know. If she's gonna know what's in needed by her master, she's gonna know because she's been taught to read the needs.
Mm-hmm.
And when you care and you are obedient, you're gonna know.
True. This is true. And I've heard. I say I've heard, but it is part of that training and preparation for courtship.
Hmm.
That the woman's mind should be studied and known to the man. The woman should know a man's heart, you know.
That's right.
So, and I think about the heart, and the heart having chambers, and of course, There may be some chambers you will not know. I'm pretty sure, but it helps to drive how you function, how
That's
you
right.
complement um,
That's right.
of your master and your headship, your leadership. Um, yeah, it helps to inform you very much on how to move. So I think those things
Mhm.
are important. Um, Master Menelek, and I probably he says a modern spin. I might be ahead of the game because I think I skip ahead of it sometimes. Uh, did you read this one?
No, I didn't.
Okay, Chief Yuya, the modern spin on all that work that men put in is because women deserve to be treated like queens by default, and he has to earn her because she is a prize. Yeah, and that's absolutely false. For those of you listening or tuning in later on, absolutely false.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely false. We are desired,
Hmm.
not needed.
That's right.
She says this is in response to MGC Randy. Some play dumb, having some play dumb under the guise of submission to wear you out with having to micromanage them too. A righteous, prepared woman is the true blessing. Anything else is a liability.
Mm. I've heard that before. Yeah.
Okay, I do not like where this thing is going.
So, can you see the next one?
Repulsive rhetoric. I think that was it's what 1129. That was the whole phrase. I think that was the phrase that we were talking about.
It is repulsive rhetoric. That woman
Truly
truly
wicked, was
wicked woman. Mm-hmm.
Master Menelik, at the breakup, all that work you pour into her becomes the control mechanisms you used to oppress her with. She did everything she was told, and you still weren't happy. Total BS.
Right.
Akisak says equal does not mean the same. 1 plus 3 is equal to 4, 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, both equal, but not the same. Indeed.
That's right. That's right.
Indeed. And yeah, because the composition of those things. I mean, if we talk in mathematics, let's really talk mathematics.
That's right.
Knowledge and understanding versus wisdom double. That's like, yeah.
That's right.
Wow. Give thanks. Thank you very much for that insight.
Mm-hmm.
I know I didn't just say give thanks. Gosh. So empowering to be the victim when it doesn't work. The only thing they did wrong was pick you for a mate.
Mm. Yep.
All right. She says, yeah, we ain't equal this and we ain't the same. If that were the case, I could just be with any gender and possibly any age group. Yeah, true.
That's right.
This is very true. Hmm. That is such a huge fight. It is such a huge fight to be equal. And it's it's a waste of breath talking about it actually. Because it's like, why? I had at least I thought I had a point. Right. Okay. Well, it's now a poor thought, afterthought.
Right.
Master Mendelek says, exactly, Chief. Half hearted submission with the intention of failing just to have a contrived anecdote to use as an example. That will put a man through they will put a man through hell just to say they tried it and it didn't work.
Hmm.
Uh, Abaraska MGC Randy says, since there's a spiritual war going on, men can't afford to spend unnecessary time and energy on a black hole. We desire assets to the vision not depletion of energy slash resources.
Yeah.
11:09. We are so behind, but you can't help it because the okay. Let me see if I can run through them. But these are not run through points. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Um, Chief, I'll just skip some of the quick responses. Chief says, totally agreed with Master Menelek and MGC. I don't advocate any man to waste time on the daughters of Babylon at this point. No more doing the job their fathers failed to do. It's too dangerous. Yeah, this is from the Happy Wife, Happy Life thing. She
Mm-hmm.
says this is, and I'm gonna put it up because somebody might see it and uh, be schooled. This is the Jezebel Ahab model. This is a spiritual agenda to raise the Ishtar cult. Abortions, high suicide rates, increased crime rates, and unwed mothers come with this.
Yes.
I was actually looking at maybe I'll find the link and post it. I was actually looking at a quick piece of an interview where a brother was actually sharing um, he was sharing some of the statistics that were directly correlated to a single mother household, and the women who were in the studio space all became offended because they started to attack the man. They started to say, like, why are you blaming it on the single mothers? And I'm like, well, he isn't blaming it on them, but you are instinctively doing that. You're defensive about the thing that is true because ego doesn't like to be ego. Like it survives, lives, it thrives on offense.
Mm-hmm.
You're offended only
Yeah.
because you know it's true, and it's a shame that is the truth. It's a shame. It's so sad, and yeah, I'm just ranting. I shouldn't, but that was offensive. Thank you, Chief. That phrase is said by battered men who couldn't muster the strength to say STFU the first time she deliberately does something slick to get her way. Exactly, Safta. She has no idea what makes her happy. True.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
True. Oh my gosh, you know how long ago that was? Um, happy wife, happy life, destroy. Oh,
Destroy
so
the.
true. Destroy the Ottoman Empire.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. Thank you. So true. Wow. Great answer on the high value question, Safta. Because there was a time I heard you say something different. That's growth on your part. Us fathers have too much to lose, not enough to gain from the type of uneven exchange. Men, fathers, sorry. All right, let's see. We're almost there. Proverbs 12:15 says, the way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but a wise man listens to advice. These moments of fellowship can be life changing if you're open to wisdom.
Yes. Yes. And there's always room for growth. I
Mm,
mean, and one thing I've learned about being in a new, you, and I believe Chief mentioned it the other evening when we were in a study group. You never arrive as long as you're still here. And I think when you do, it's time to transition. you know,
When you do what?
I said no. I said you never arrive. I mean, we're
Hmm.
always learning. You know, and there was a time that I don't know. I would think that, I think what happens to a lot of older people is after they reach a certain age, they start getting tired because life's beat them up. And the issue that I'm seeing now is because we haven't learned how to not get beat up. You know,
Right.
you haven't learned how to, and you never overcome to a point of perfection. You just have to keep studying, keep growing, keep living. Because once you arrive, that's when it's time to transition. It's time to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's nothing else left. Or I think I've seen people transition because they don't want to change. They're not going to ever do anything any different.
Mhm.
You know, they're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. And I don't know. I don't think you've read that one where Chief talks about Proverbs 12:15. Did
I
you?
did.
Did you?
Did.
That's where I got that from. It says,
I
"The
did.
ways of a fool is right in his own eyes,
Mhm.
but a wise man listens to advice. The moments of fellowship can be life changing." And that's what I was thinking about. Because
Mhm.
even in our build, I remember coming into a new, I was good for the first hour, hour and a half. I'm like, but when we start going into 2 hours and 3 hours, and on some of those Sabbath calls, remember how Chief would keep us 3 or 4, 5 hours one time. But at the end of those times, I always remember feeling, wow, that was good.
Yeah.
It's never been a waste of time. And moments of fellowship to me have become, it's like I always have a chance later to go back and reflect and think. And I hesitate now to use that word reflect. But
You're right. Right.
I just go back and I replay it in my mind and I dissect it and I think about what's been shared, you know. But yeah.
I was skipping one or two of these because
Okay.
it's like, um, I know some of them were personal,
Mhm.
just direct, quick responses. Akira says, this is great information for young individuals like myself who have no idea where to look for a righteous young woman, especially hearing the men's views on what to accept and what to steer away from.
Mhm.
Yes, yes, yes. Because I remember when we were discussing, the value of this actual discussion, the title. Sorry,
Mhm.
and that's something we failed to actually say at the beginning. We are really talking about the value of righteous culture, you know,
Mhm.
and functioning in the right way. And
Right
I
thinking.
and
Yeah.
right thinking. That's what I was getting at. Right
Mhm.
thinking. Um, and I really think, and culture again, I'm gonna keep underscoring because that's what kind of dictates how we're moving and how we're functioning. It's our culture. It's our culture. Um, and we were like, well, this will just be a conversation for sisters. But then it's like, nah, no, not really, because
Mhm.
sisters are who brothers desire. So if we're having a conversation about femininity, and being feminine and faithfully feminine, the brothers will have a lot to talk about. And in so said, so done. So I'm glad that you found value in it, Aki
Mhm.
Rahim, because of all of the nurturing and the outpouring of wisdom that the brothers have shared this evening. And it's not you, like I'm over here, I'll be taking
Right. But
shots
yeah,
later because I do that. There are a few of them where I'm like, wait, it's just like pure gems in the chat. Pure gems in the chat.
that's
Thank
right.
you so much. Ra says, sometimes I find myself not even looking since the sickness in young females is so widespread. And Chief's response is, all women you deal with should be screened by your senior brothers. Whoop, whoop. All women, caps, all women, even those of the senior brothers, should be screened by their brothers. That's how you avoid the carnage.
Mhm.
All of those naturally indwelling tactics that can be refined and directed towards building up that economic system in the home. Instead, it's weaponized to tear the home apart from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, oh, I see.
Excuse me. You were the one on parole from the
Yes,
other realm.
eating prison food. Oh my goodness. All right. Give thanks, Chief. 9 times out of 10, they cannot make it to the screening. This makes me wonder if it is a time of work instead of search, or if I'm the problem. Akizak says campaign has got to be strong where you naturally get elected. Oh, you said don't read it. Okay, sorry, Akizak. Already read. Already read. Let me see if I can take my virtual eraser. No, I don't. It can't work. It's not gonna work. Master Menelik says, Ra, as long as you're moving as a man on your mission, you begin to scrutinize them a bit more. She's got to be selling what you're buying. Select the best possible meat based on the metrics above. Yeah, a long list of metrics. Long, long, good list. Just know that the men have a higher level of scrutiny and experience that is a level of covering in itself.
Mm-hmm.
Good. This is yes, this is so beautiful. Like watching the exchange and seeing how that support the direction is very clear.
That's right.
It's very clear. It's very clear. I'm actually scrubbing because I'm scrubbing through. I'm going to check that one out tonight myself, Master Mania. Like, what did he say above? Oh, check out Are You High Value Now? The
Mm-hmm.
link is by, yes, the link was shared by Imanaya and it's going to be put in the, I don't know if you could click on the link. I think you can. But it's also going to be in the description too. So check it out, check it
Mm-hmm.
out, check it out. Chief says, this has been beautiful, sisters. Thank you so much. Chief is shutting down the show. It is minutes to 12. Oh my gosh, it's almost midnight.
Yeah,
We want you to get your rest so you can close it down with this comment. Thank you for your time and energy. That has been lovely. Normally, I'm the one shutting things down.
that's
What's
right.
going on?
That's right.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm gonna be here. I'm not gonna miss nothing. So
Right,
I've
right,
really
right.
enjoyed this. I've really
Yeah.
enjoyed the comments.
Before we close up, I'm gonna share these quick things just so that they're on the screen. So anyone else can like jump in. Not anybody else jump in really, but anyone who's watching this later on can, peace everyone, can kind of jump on the references in terms of the Chief Yuya's solutions for dysfunctional family relationships. That's really important. And I think it was an important part of our build. But I am trying to do 10 things. You know what? Peace, everyone. Good evening. Enjoy
Peace,
your Sabbath. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy.
peace.
I gotta say, peace, everyone. Thank you for being in space. And rest well.